welcome back to another week of the Shadowverse Open. We are in the last week of the round robin for Europe. It's week number 4. 4 weeks, 2 groups of 6, and we've had a lot of games that have gone back and forth. Some front runners have taken losses, and some front runners have just continued just piling through their competition and destroying everything. I'm Randy, your host for the day. We've got Andre the Pickens and Justin the Carter. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
Day.
Doing good.
Yeah.
I like how I just gave you middle names, and those middle names are just the. Now that's just.
I'm fine with that.
Just regular old articles, man.
I'm sorry. I very apologize for that. But let's talk a little bit about the tournament. You guys have watched it for a while now, but for those of you who may happen to be new, let's take a look at the format and the journey that these players took to get here. We started out with 3 weeks of qualifiers where we found the top 12 players of each region, North America and EU. These top 12 players were divided into 2 groups of 6, Group A and Group B, and they played out a round robin, or they are playing out a round robin. Each player in the group has to play each other player, and then the top 3 from both groups after this week that will be decided will move on to a playoffs bracket where they will play for $16,000 of prize pool. So, we are about to watch the 12 players from EU, from Group A and Group B, finish out their groups, and from then on we can know who is going to go on to the playoffs. But there may be a situation where there are ties, where there are people who are having the same scoreline. And how do we solve that situation? Well, here is the tiebreaker rule set. First, we look at the head-to-head scoreline. So, if player A has beat player B, but both players are 3 and 2, just as an example, player A would be valued higher than player B because he has won the head-to-head matchup. If there is no way to decide by head-to-head, we will go to game win-loss ratio. So within a match, there could be up to 3 games, and we take your wins versus your losses, and whoever has a better ratio is deemed higher seed than their other tied opponents. And finally, if none of these rule sets can determine the winner, we go to another tiebreaker match where all players who are tied with each other play in basically another mini round robin, and then we go through and apply all those tiebreaker rules to that specific round robin again. So, there will be a winner deemed at the end of this whole process, and it could get real extraneous, but unfortunately that's just what you have to do when it comes to competition. So, let's take a look at the standings and see how these players are faring in the round robin. We've got Akamaru Red in Group A. He is currently the only remaining undefeated player, and it has yet to be discovered whether he will go 5-0, but at the end of this day, we will figure that out. Now, Akamaru Red is guaranteed to be in the playoffs, so he has made it. Disastrous Sheepy is 2-1, and it's going to be a very important day for him today, because he's going to be playing... he's going to have to be performing pretty well, right? There's 5 games total in the round robin, and you've got 3 under your belt already. If you lose 2 and you go 2-3, you are out, right? So Sheepy could be in a very dangerous spot. Same thing for all the rest down the list. Akai, just 1 loss away. Kionis, just 1 loss away. And then Praetorian and Lonathel, of course, already are kind of out of the running, but it's very important to watch their games because depending on how they do, they could knock somebody else down. So, we'll take a look at those results in a little more detail. And obviously, Group B with Suzzoni in the lead, 3-1. And Group B is interesting because there isn't that front runner who could go 5-0 anymore in Group B. There's just 4-1 as a top-end score. And if there's a 5-0 player, the interesting thing to note is there is a higher likelihood that place 2, 3, and 4 will be tied, just because of the distribution of wins and losses. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the schedule of the matches today, and then we can talk through a few of these matchups here, as they'll be quite important, especially the head-to-head. But Disastrous Sheepy versus Lonathel to kick off the day, and then we've got Akamaru Red versus Akai, Kionis versus Lonathel, Sheepy versus Praetorian, Fatina versus Derzello, Catch versus Estia, Suzzoni versus Derzello, and then Fatina versus Symphonist. So, we've got a few matches here. And it's going to be quite a packed day as we have to kind of wrap up the round robin here. But what do you guys think? And I guess I'll start with Aya Senpai. What are some of the biggest hopes for you moving into this round robin? What are the things that you want to see at the end of the day today?
I still want to see Forrest get annihilated. That will not change. A curse has to remain. But outside of that, as per usual, control blood, man. I want to see some control blood, and happen to know that at least one player's packing it today. So I'm definitely going to be seeing some control blood.
What's interesting is I think ever since I think it was a JCG that control blood took a win in, a lot of the players in North America have started adapting that list, and I feel like it's kind of slowly been growing in popularity. Exotic, what do you think about the Control Blood deck? And I think we have 2 instances of it showing up today. I believe Sheepy is running 1 instance of it, and then Essia is running a 2nd instance of it, though it is banned. But what do you think about the deck in general?
So realistically, the format changed since the updates. So a lot of people are going to more of the aggro, especially again, every single time a new format comes out, you want to push for the aggro because it's really hard to know how to set up against it. Control Blood is already set up against it. So if you're expecting like all of these new Haven decks that we're planning on seeing today in the aggro fashion, Control Blood is a good shutdown deck for that. As in weeks past, we've seen a lot more control decks. This week, I think we're going to see a lot more aggro decks, and Control Blood fits really well.
All right. Well, that's good to watch out for, and definitely take note, because after the changes, a lot of things are different. We're seeing a lot more Forest. We're seeing a lot more Sword as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but basically after every kind of change, whether it's a new expansion, whether it's balance changes and updates, aggro seems to become really popular. A lot of people, when they're not really sure how to optimize their decks and their lists, it seems like aggro is a go-to kind of, okay, this is probably the most effective right now. As the meta develops, do you think that's the trend, that it goes towards control or mid-range? What do you guys think about that? Let's start with Aya Senpai.
Aggro does tend to be more popular because aggro decks tend to kind of transition through changes. So whenever there is a big change like what we had for like what was just in the last week, you're seeing a lot. You're still seeing aggro. You're not. It's not going to go anywhere. Aggro will always last through changes and transitions. And it's easier to figure out when you're playing. So that's why you're going to see aggro a lot more.
Do you? Sorry, go ahead. Exo.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to go on that. It's really easy to know how to play on curve aggressively. It's hard to build a control deck until you know what answers you need. So like once you know what the aggro metagame looks like, then you can build the answers, and then control develops. And then you see mid-range develop as kind of like a parity between the two. I know how to be aggressive. I know which answers I need to push, and that's why you kind of see the development of aggro into control into mid-range kind of like as seasons progress. And mid-range usually takes over the top spot by the end of the whatever trend is going on.
So, Exo, what do you recommend for the newer player out there that's just looking to get into Shadowverse? What kind of deck archetype would you recommend them start out on? Do you want them to start developing habits of deck building to try to go for that control playstyle? Or do you want them to just kind of get used to the exchanging and the aggressive nature of the game and tell them to go aggro and try to just go face?
Absolutely. So for new players getting into the game, it's really always a good idea to get into aggro just so you can understand how the game is played. And then also you can see how opponents are shutting you down. So like you build aggro, you build it to the best of your ability, and then when it's at its peak, you realize all the things that are shutting your deck down, and then you start getting ideas on how to build control decks, how to build these mid-range decks, that kind of stuff over time. So like it helps you develop as a player. But once you've got that down, like, okay, I know how aggro works, I know what answers I need to do that, then you're just looking for the new different ways to do that when updates happen, changes happen, new cards come out, all that kind of stuff.
Speaking of which, speaking of teaching new players, you just came back from PAX. How was that experience? I saw you got to meet a lot of new faces, get to teach Shadowverse to a lot of new guys out there, new guys and girls out there. How was that experience? It's good to have you back, first of all.
Yeah, thank you. And it was unbelievable. I must have met hundreds, if not thousands, of new players. I was streaming from the booth at right in the middle of PAX. I had a stage show out there. Like, everything was super fun. We had new players, experienced players, streamers from other games come in. My audience was getting into it. They were like trying to prep these players to get into the game. Some exciting, some definitely hopefuls for Season 3. Brand new players we saw at the PAX booth that came into my stream. My viewers are like, holy crap, watch out for this guy. So, new competition coming, and it was just a great overall experience. It was a wonderful weekend.
Yeah. And Season 3 is obviously going to be very cool because we have the World Grand Prix coming up, which we talked about during that weekend on the mid-season special. So more opportunities to compete, as well as Season 3 is going on. I think we are just getting the lobby set up for Sheepy versus Lanathel, and important to note, guys, that unfortunately, in the deck registration situation, there was a little bit of a hiccup. Lanathel will be penalized 1 game down, so within the match he has one game loss automatically credited to him. So all Sheepy needs to do is win once, and then he will be able to take the match. But let's jump in and see what's going on here. We've got Dimension Shift Rune and Seraph Haven for Sheepy, and then Lanathel can play either Garuda Haven or Beauty and the Beast, Forest, but it looks like it's going to be a Haven mirror. Alright guys, tell me what's going on in this match. Who's going to take it?
Alright, please talk to us about Haven. This is your jam.
Yeah, this is my jam. Okay, so what we can see from Sheepy's hand, he's got a very controlling hand. He's got his Sacred Plea on 1, he's got his Tribunal, he's got his March Hares. And what we can see from Lanathel's side is he's got neutral going. He's got neutral going. So Sheepy opted to get rid of the Tribunal on his mulligan, primarily due to the fact that it's just not as good on the draw. But now he really... Oh, well, there you go. So he got his priest to the cudgel.
Got his priest. So kind of how these decks play out is Seraph is trying to get to turn 8 to play it Seraph onto an unimpeded board so that it can combo off. We've seen this deck before. And the new thing that has sprung out, we saw it at the very beginning of the season when the set first came out, but it kind of died out a while right after that. But it's back in full force after the changes, is the Neutral Haven list. Neutral Haven is basically just trying to play the neutral curve that we know, 1 through 4 Alice, and then it's trying to finish with big hitters and tempo plays in Eagle Man and Lion of the Golden City. So basically those get reduced every single time you play a neutral follower, to basically just dump your hand as fast and early as possible and present board states that are very hard to come back from.
Well, just to touch on that a little bit, the reason why Neutral Haven has come back in such a heavy throttle is because of the changes that took place recently to Neutral Rune, where Felice was changed to not have the free evolution on Enhance anymore when you're at 7 play points. So that change, in many ways, kind of opened the door for Neutral Haven to just kind of slide in and just become that more dominant Haven list that we've been seeing in throughout this entire week. We've been seeing Neutral Haven just dominate. So. Yep,
and we've seen it today. We'll get into it more as the matches progress. But Haven has been either played or banned by almost every single player in the tournament today, most of which are Neutral Haven. So a lot of people definitely on the train. They understand how powerful the deck is.
Now, we got a very interesting situation here for Sheepy. Sheepy will be able to banish one of these Unicas, but he will not be able to trade out through this Eagle Man.
Yep, Eagle Man, a big 4/5 board that got reduced from all the early neutral plays of Lanathel, so very good board setup. This is exactly what the deck's trying to do. Set up a board that it can protect and then just keep pushing until it's over.
Yep. And his hand is stacked with Eagle Men, dude.
Oh yeah,
This is stacked, and he's gonna Evo to push more damage. I like this play a lot. It's 1 turn before Themis. His March Hare's tea time isn't going to be enough to clear out this damage because he's got the Garuda in hand. Like, this game is over. Lanathel's taking
this is already over. Yeah.
Yeah. Lanathel just basically ran away with this game.
Yeah. Lanathel's like, you know what? I got a game loss. I'm coming and swinging. Let's go.
Yeah.
I like this, but this is exactly what we're talking about. Just board states that are very hard to deal with very early. You have to get very good draws to do something like this, but Lanathel got the appropriate draw and he was able to push.
Yeah, he got the appropriate draw. Like, I see what Sheepy's doing. He's playing the Nisha. So for those who don't know, when it comes into play, until the beginning of your next turn, you can't damage time, but not because it took exactly the amount of damage.
Yep.
You needed
So yeah, it'll prevent anything over 3 damage, but of course, with that Garuda in hand, the extra 3 damage that he needed. So Lanafel going up a game.
Yeah, he just came in here and said, "I'm gonna punch Sheepy in the face," and that's exactly what happened.
Right in the face. Now, I feel kind of bad for Lanafel here. The reason why is because Forestcraft generally has a really good matchup against Seraph, which Sheepy still has to play. But knowing that Sheepy only has to win one more game, I doubt he's going to line that up. I don't think he's going to bring Seraph into this game against Forest. And then if he does happen to win this game, then it's over immediately. So, Lanafel definitely on the back foot here.
Alright,
oh.
So... Ooh.
Never mind. Giving Lanafel the opportunity he needs to actually take the match. I wouldn't have expected this.
Well, Lanafel can... Wow! That hand, though, man. Like, Lanafel... Oh, my goodness.
He's doing the neutral things. He's doing them.
Yeah, like, look at this hand, though.
It's literally the same deck without Eagle Man.
Right, and not only that, but look at Sheepy's hand. Sheepy's not going to be able to do anything about this for a while. You know... Like,
on stage.
This is definitely going to be an interesting play. Now, if Sheepy can make it through these first 4 turns, Lanafel doesn't really have anything to back this up. Like, the Alice is obviously going to be very strong coming down on 4, which will pump the entire team. Woodland Band!
Band?
Woodland Band?
What am I seeing right now?
Oh my goodness! All right, well, Lanafel definitely taking a departure from normal Forest things.
Yeah,
we'll see if it works out for him.
For those who don't know what Woodland Band does, whenever you have a 4 followers in play, that amulet will pop and all your followers will get now. But
yep.
You're done for.
Woodland Band,
very good with board filling.
I see, awakening.
But the problem is, he's going to be running out of that real quick.
Let's play again.
Yeah. Goblin Princess definitely helps, so that makes more sense as to why we saw the Goblin Princess. Normally, you don't see that in most neutral decks outside of Haven because, of course, it'll reduce the cost 3 times of the followers in your hand. But in most decks, you don't because it's kind of low value. But with the Woodland Band, it kind of makes more sense.
This is very, very interesting. So... what we actually saw was, we saw Lanafel get a great opening hand. And then, like, Sheepy's actually kind of able to stabilize now. He can play the Tribunal in his hand to take out this Tina. So he can certainly stabilize his board. And Lanafel's not necessarily sitting on a lot of threats in hand at the moment either.
His last 3 draws just have not been what you want to see when you're trying to push after that first early aggression there. So... let's see. Goblin Princess is really the only play. Try to flood the board again. Of course, we know that Sheepy has the perfect answer in Judge to get rid of that Goblin Princess. Can't imagine any other play here.
No.
I guess, well, actually,
however,
you could Blacken Scripture plus Priest of the Cudgel. That could work too.
Okay. Well, what we could have seen is we could have seen, Lanafel be able to, if he had to remove 2, rather. We could have seen that Woodland Band actually go off, but like it's not gonna happen.
Right. I don't think that's happening this game. Now it could be that Uriel just might be a dead card from now on. It might just be a random, just 4 play point follower here, because I don't think you ever want to put 2 of the Woodlands in play.
No, because it requires you to have 4 followers to play, so you can't play 2 Woodland Band.
Right. So, kind of really running out of steam here. Like, if this board gets dealt with, not really sure how Lanafel comes back in this game. Yeah, and like Tribunal's popping next turn for the follow-up, so
let us conclude.
It's looking really good for Sheepy.
This is exactly what Sheepy wants. So now Lanafel out of gas. Sheepy has basically 1,000,001 ways to stay alive. He still has 2 tribunals in hand. He's got a curate. He's got a Nisha. He's got all the cards that he needs to just, be able to deal with every one of Lanathel's threats one by one.
And Lanathel isn't playing any kind of roach shenanigans, so there's not going to be any combo damage coming out of hand. So, like, he's just playing straightforward aggro. Decided he wanted to hold his hand, probably just in an attempt to make a Beauty and the Beast play, if he can, like, off the top. But even that, I don't think is going to be good enough at this point. I think that Sheepy might even just be able to push with his followers now.
Oh, yeah, definitely, because Lanathel has no removal. He has no way of making a comeback. He has, not only that, but Sheepy's just sitting on options upon options. Like,
yeah. Yep, easy stuff. Like, he can even just jam a unit in, play double tribunal. I mean, he can pop stuff with the Hollow Dogma. I mean, like, he's in there.
Yeah, this game is... It's sad to see a game kind of go like that when you see such a great start.
Right.
He had a great start, Lanathel. It's just, after that, the draws have just not been there for him, Yep. It happened.
Yep, Sheepy just pushing the aggro here. Getting out the other Tin Soldier, and this turn will pretty much seal the deal. And partial Strix, wow!
Yeah, and he can't even activate it. That's even worse.
No, he cannot. No, he cannot.
He did have another Woodland Band. Wow! Okay, man, this guy decided, you know what, man, I'm coming here with neutral memes.
That's right. This is super neutral memes. This is exactly what this is. I was expecting a more traditional forest list. This is not a traditional forest list.
And you know what? I'm not even mad. It's just unfortunate that the deck just happened to play out the way it did.
Yep. I'm assuming that his whole entire intention is just to flood the board as often and as early as possible. Just didn't get the tools after the first 4 turns.
And, hey man, don't fall out your chair, bro. Don't fall out your chair.
I mean, I knew that was Sheepy's signature move, but he held on to that one. He held on to that one real long, and even got the rotation in there. It was a 180. I expect to see Sheepy next time you do that. I expect to see the 360-degree dab.
Yeah, the full circle, man. You gotta
get the pacing just right. You gotta get the dab. You gotta hold it, and then you gotta slowly rotate the 360 degrees. That was
full airplane mode.
So, Woodland Band. I mean, it looked like Lanathel was more interested in playing music than playing Shadowverse. You know what I mean?
See, I wasn't gonna say something
that. That was perfect. That was perfect.
That was grade A, man. Man, ukulele, he was ready to go.
But what's so on a more serious note? Do you think so? Obviously, Woodland Band's not going to give you the benefit unless you do have those 4 followers out there. And it doesn't actually matter when you play it. If you have the 4 followers and then you play it, it'll give you the benefit, right? The question for me is he was actually curving out, and he actually drew Angel of the Word on well, not on curve. I think it was on Alice's turn. It was on 4.
Yeah,
it was 4 play points. Do you feel like he should have rearranged? Well, did he have Woodland Bands on 3? I suppose.
No.
The question I'm posing here is: should he have played followers on curve rather than Woodland Band? Should he have? And would that have given him the victory? Because his opening was real aggressive.
I think he should have just abandoned the Woodland Band plan entirely. Okay, he should never have played the card. It's like basically against a control deck, you're playing turn X do nothing. The card doesn't do anything, because you don't have a full board. So he should just never have played it.
Mm-hmm.
And
there might have been a scenario.
I would have loved to see it pop though.
Yeah, there might have been a scenario where he could have rearranged his Goblin Princess plus a play later in the game to actually pop it, but it didn't look like he was interested in actually going that route. I think he did what Aya said, but after he played the Woodland Band. I think he played it and then he's just like, all right, whatever, that card's dead. I don't care about it.
One day.
He just threw his hands up. I'm done. Okay, Woodland Band. That's it.
One day. Musicians all need practice. It's okay. At some point in time, we will always experience some form of failure. But in our failure, do we find success? And one day, maybe Woodland Ban will be a thing. But not today. Not today.
Not today.
Not today. So Lanathel will fall. Sheepy is able to take that first win with Seraph. He played the Seraph and it didn't even pop. He just beat him by beating him. But let's talk a little bit about our next match here. Akamaru Red versus Akai. Of course, this is a very important game because Akamaru Red, we're looking to see if he's going to be 5-0. Right, if he's going to be undefeated in the round robin. He has a lot going for him right now. Never thought that Akamaru Red, out of all the players that we saw on the list, would be so dominant in the round robin. The only one to be undefeated so far, and his deck list, unfortunately, the Dragoncraft deck got banned, and it's a Jabberwock deck.
Oh no!
I would have
nobody wants to deal with that.
Loved to see that deck get played. That seems insane. But the two decks that he has to run now is Neutral Haven and Neutral Ruin. Now talk to me a little bit. Obviously in the last game we just saw a bunch of neutral cards coming mainly from Lanathel, but just overall looking at the decks submitted, there's a lot of neutralists out there. What do you think, Exo, about the changes that have caused neutral to be so prominent? Is it that element of aggro, or is there something else about the neutral package that people are just more comfortable with now that some of the things have been nerfed?
Sure. Well, one of the big departures that we saw since the nerfs or the changes is Vengeance Blood was a huge factor in the last couple weeks, and now Vengeance Blood is non-existent. And
yes.
Vengeance Blood kept a lot of those mid-range decks in check with the Big Knuckle Bodyguard, with the Sabrewer, and all that kind of stuff. And now, since those cards are a little bit worse than they were before, in the case of BKB, just unplayable, then these mid-range decks have a lot more oomph in the mid-game, and the control decks have a really hard time with dealing with those super aggressive starts, especially with Alice and Actress Faria. They just don't have the tools to always clear the board, so it's a lot more appealing to these players now because the decks are consistent, they do what they do, and if you just so happen to get one of those powerful draws, you can force your opponent into a situation where they can't react to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, look forward to seeing more and more neutral. And hopefully some better elements of diversity here, which I do think we have a few lists coming up. In this particular match, Akai himself is running Burn Rune, so that's not really neutral oriented, it's more kind of Runecraft oriented, and then Frog Aggro, which has a few neutral cards here and there, but the Froggy is always a special one. So we're hopping into Akamaru Red versus Akai very shortly here. Haven Rune versus Rune Sword. I want to see Sword win, just because it's Sword. What do you guys think?
Well, Akamaru Red back in the public library. Sweet.
Again, guaranteed that he was going to win today. No losses to his name, so we're going to see if he can put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, he believes that he can't lose. Okay, you know what? I'm inclined to believe him. Okay,
that's right. Akamaru Red hasn't shown us any reason to doubt him yet. So.
Yep. I mean, he's in the public library, he's jamming out to some music, he's eating some food, he's catching some drinks. This man is ready to play some card games.
Competitive arena right now, his full comfort zone. So, let's talk about the hands real quick. So, Akamaru Red did kind of like high rolly mulligan by keeping the Eagle Man and throwing back the rest. Got a good draw because he's Akamaru Red. And we see Akai over here with a pretty good draw. He's got a 2-drop into the Pompous Princess, which will fetch a 1-drop out of his deck into play, and then he can follow that up if the princess lives with 2 more Centaur Vanguards, which, if you don't know what that card does, is it gains Storm if you have an allied commander in play. So very good aggressive draw here.
I love your logic because he's Akamaru Red.
Sure, why not, man? That's as good as reason as any.
Reasons, that's why.
Yeah, because reasons. Because he's got red in his name. Because he reminds me of Akuma from Street Fighter, you know, whatever reasons you want to throw out there, it's all good.
Okay, that's fine. All right, okay, all right. That's a little more passable than because it's Akamaru Red, I guess. All right, let's get into this game, man. All right, so Akai, did his best to kind of set up a little bit of a board here, but Akamaru Red is sitting in a very decisive advantage right now. It was also very wise of him to take out the commander. Because I take away that commander officer synergy that is actually very prevalent in Akai's deck right now because of these Centaur Vanguards.
Very prevalent. So even though Akamaru Red is getting one of the best on the play draws you can get, Beast Call onto multiple neutrals into Eagle Man, Akai is actually putting together a pretty formidable board with a bunch of Storm to follow up. He's got the Novice Trooper, he's got the Alwita's Command, he's got another Centaur Vanguard. So essentially he's got another, without any Evos, 7 damage sitting in hand. So if he can push even just a little bit of damage with the followers that he has in play here, depending on how defensive Akamaru Red gets, he might just be able to finish out pretty quickly.
Now, I actually really am like... this play kind of is a little weird. Now, here's my question to you. Would you have cleared out the carrot so you could play the Eagle Man this turn? Oh, he has done that. Okay.
It looks like he's doing that. So, what it looks like he's done here is clear the entire board out, and then do the thing we were talking about. Play these super aggressive boards, get that Eagle Man to defend the board, and now the situation completely flip-flops. Like, this is exactly what you want to see when you're playing Neutral Haven. It looks just gross, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is a get the bag moment, okay?
Yeah.
And Akamaru Red is dancing. Oh my god. I love this guy. I love this guy.
Super comfort zone.
Yeah, he is killing that music, or rather, it's killing his ears. And this is basically a concession. Like,
yeah,
this is a concession.
Ephemera Pass is basically like, I don't really have any other good plays. I have to set up for Alwitas, maybe. Like, this does set up for Alwitas in the fact that when he plays Alwitas, he can evolve the then 2/3 to attack into the 5 toughness Eagle Man so that he can push 4 damage with... Right, but yeah, he's just dead, yeah. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to talk about stuff, outside of the obvious, alright?
I understand, man, but sometimes the guy's dead. When he's dead, he's dead, okay? Like,
I don't want to admit that Akamaru Red won yet, okay? I just didn't want to admit it.
Really
I've gotta take him down a little bit whenever I can, okay? That's just the rule.
Okay. I mean, he did say he wouldn't lose, so, like, I mean,
right.
But aside from that, the game was already over. Like,
clearly, there was 1 million points of power on that board. Literal 1 million.
Yeah.
All right. So this matchup is actually a pretty even matchup. It really just depends on what Akamaru Red's mid-game looks like. So he's playing the neutral rune, again, the package that we've been seeing. And if he gets a good mid-game, that can basically flush out Akai's hand. Like, if Akai doesn't have the Master Mage Levi's in time, if he doesn't have Professor of Taboos, some form of big AoE removal to fill out that mid-game, then Akamaru Red could run away with this. But, on the same token, if it's backwards, where Akamaru Red doesn't get any big followers and he just plays a bunch of small ones and does get wiped, then the game could just be over from that point.
Yeah. Now, the difference between Neutral Rune and Neutral Haven, to those who don't know, is that Neutral Haven is generally stronger at putting together bigger boards, whereas Neutral Rune is very good at coming up with ways of using storm damage, and even having ways of keeping cards in the hand through cards like Witch of Sweets or even Wizardess of Oz for the particular decks that want to run that. So there's a significant difference between the two decks.
Yep. And what the other really big positive of Neutral Rune and why people like to run it is because of Wizardess and the Witch of Sweets, you actually have multiple ways of just filling out the board on turn after turn after turn. So you're never going to put together a board like you saw last game, where you have a bunch of big followers followed up by a big ward. You're just going to see a bunch of small followers followed by a bunch of small followers, or the mid-gamey options with Felice and even all the way up to Gilgamesh with just one big follower at a time dealing storm damage. So it has kind of 2 good angles of attack.
Now, just a little bit of, foresight here while Akamaru Red tries to figure out his turn. Or Red, let's talk about, just the future. Do you think in the next set, not based on anything...
Wait. Did you see how we just attacked right there?
Yeah.
Did you see how we just attacked right there?
I did. So actually, let's rewind and not even go to my question. I want to know what his mindset for that line of play was. Okay.
He's still dancing, so he's confident in that play.
Yeah. But I want to know why he's confident in that line. Because,
it was just the wrong play.
But is he saying, in that play,
was that a taunt?
You know what? I think it is. I think he's saying, I can't lose.
I can't lose. Doesn't matter how I play.
I can play absolutely terrible, and I can't lose.
You're done.
All right. Moving on. What was your question?
Okay, my question. you feel it just not even based on any knowledge that we have prior to now, based on the next set, but do you think in the next set the neutral heavily dominant as it is currently?
It really just depends. We haven't seen any of the support cards yet, cards that can actually remove early boards. So, we're just gonna have to figure that out. I have no idea just yet. Not enough cards have been removed. But,
oh, I mean, just a gut feeling. Just not like anything based on any knowledge of any of the cards. Just a gut feeling.
I would imagine that the designers of the game are fully aware of neutral right now. So, yes, I would imagine that it won't be as dominant as we see it at the moment. Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so we get to see Akamaru Red going into his endgame. He's got the 2 Felice. He's only got 1 evolution orb. Of course, the enhance got taken away from Felice. No free evolutions for her anymore. So definitely has at least another push in his hand with one of the Felices. But that's all he's got left. No Wizardess, no Witch's Sweets, no like refill options here.
Right. So, oh man, Akamaru Red's still in a good spot. Good
Very
enough, rather. He's kind of. It looks like he's pretending to think about his play.
Well, honestly, this one can get a little tricky. He's only got 1 neutral in hand, so Felice can only deal 1 damage. So it can't really clear out either of the minions in play. It's really just, does he want to play one just to get the extra 4 damage in this turn? Does he want to save the evolution orb? Maybe he wants to play the Grimnir this turn. Probably not the Grimnir. He probably wants to keep the neutrals in hand, but.
Why would you not just go straight for his face? It's just my question, right? Like, I mean, we've already seen that he doesn't even care if his plays are good or not. So...
Right. What we mean by that is he attacked a 0-1 with a 2-2 instead of the 1-2 that he had, and basically reduces damage by 1 this game.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that actually comes into play.
Unbelievable.
The 7 toughness here actually very hard to deal with on Akai's side of the board. He's gonna have to run a lot of value into this.
But like I said, this is one of those things where I feel like Akai could kind of make a comeback. We can see that again. Felice doesn't actually have any.
No.
Right.
So he could actually have a comeback. He does have Illusionist, but he doesn't. He hasn't played any high cost followers, but that can help with starting to push through and make a board. Start pressuring.
You figured it out.
Yeah, it's really gonna come down to what he draws into, maybe what this Illusionist pulls, because he can Illusionist plus Red Hot Ritual this turn, which I'm pretty sure he's gonna have to. He could have gone with the Goblin Mage, but I think this is a higher value play, especially now. Perfect.
That was great. That was a great pull.
Yep.
So he didn't have to use his Evo point. He has a 4/4 in play. That Alice is actually okay. It's gonna, yeah. Alice.
See, if I were Akamaru Red in this position, I probably would have held the Grimnirs. Like, you're already in a pretty dominating position as far as life totals is concerned. There's not really a reason to throw away the value Grimnirs this early, especially when you know it's just going to get traded into.
Right. I do find it a little questionable for him to play the Grimnirs. I mean, just playing the Alice and passing would have been just fine. He's not in any danger of losing, you know? So, I do find that that's a little weird. I like that, though.
That was a pretty good draw. That might actually just be GG.
Yeah, because there is no way that he can...
He can't...
Stop it! Stop! Oh my god! He did the shrug! Yo! He's 5-0! He's 5-0!
Doing it.
Somebody put something in the European player's coffee today.
I think so.
I have no idea what happened there, but Akamaru Red just styled on Akai. He was dancing, he was shooting finger guns.
You can't file that.
I can't believe you still have that sign.
Yeah, I still have it, man.
Where's mine? Where's my sign? It's not. Nobody's coming to get my sign. It's gone.
Too good.
Akamara Red just, with the mutagenic bolt top deck, just won it, and he gave him the shrug, and then gave him the finger guns, and it was over. It was over. So he is 5-0 and has solidly set himself up for victory here. And if you're following the standings closely, this has big implications over what could happen here. It is probably a pretty bad loss for Akai as well. The fact that he took, I believe Akai was 2-2. I can't remember. Yeah, I think Akai was 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
So Akamaru Red just put him to 2-3. So that means he's out. So I think technically we are playing out now for seeding in the round robin, because, well, I don't want to make any sure statements before I know actually exactly what's going to happen. But my suspicion now is that in Europe, at least in Group A, the top 3 of that group is actually settled now, because there are 3 people with 3 losses here. So we'll see if that statement remains to be true. But we have coming up next Kionis versus Lanathel. And that's going to be the 3 decks that they submitted. On Kionis' side, interesting take for Europe here is a lot more people are playing Conjuring Force. Kionis is one of them. He's going to be playing Snow Rune, and then he's got Neutral Haven and a mid-shadow deck. Meanwhile, on Lanathel's side, there is Control Sword, which is not something we've really seen a ton of. And then we've got Neutral Haven, and then Worm God Dragon, which we've seen here and there a little bit. Here and there, and I don't think on the Shadowverse Open we've seen it actually pop, have we?
No.
Well, we've seen it pop, we just haven't seen it win.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen it do something.
Did it? Now,
It was
the question
played.
here is, do we remember if... so it lost, right? So.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Well, maybe today. Maybe today is the day we'll see it win. So, of course, it's Lanathel versus Kionis. So, again, because of some unfortunate circumstances, Lanathel is going into this match with a game loss here because of deck submission. So, Kionis just has to win one with the deck of his choosing. One of them is banned out, but he can play either Haven or Shadow or Rune depending on what's banned. So, he has a choice there. And we'll see. So obviously Kionis is slated to win this because he's got the advantage. But if all things were kind of, even, considering all things were even, what do you think about Lanathel's submission here? How do you feel about Control Sword, Neutral Haven, and Worm God Dragon?
Honestly,
Well,
it
Control
feels kind of like
Sword-
a... Go ahead.
No, go, man.
I was literally gonna do the same thing you just did. Control Sword. It's kind of like a wild card deck, right? Like, I mean, you never know how good it's gonna be because it doesn't have a lot of options. You just play big followers and hope they're good enough. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with the Worm God Dragon deck. I'm assuming you just play a bunch of big dudes and see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely see how it goes. So we're gonna jump into this first game here. Kionis versus Lanathel, a game up for Kionis. And Kionis has been a kind of interesting player. How have you felt about his performance so far in the round robin? I feel like he's been, he always seems to have a high level of play, but he's not necessarily had the record that a player like Akamaru Red has. Of course, none of these players in Europe have that. But what do you think about Kionis so far?
I think Kionis, he's performed decently. One of the things that we see that maybe he could adjust to his play for future seasons or whatnot is maybe he should play a little bit more to the meta. Like sometimes he just, from what I've noticed, is that he just kind of plays what he wants, which is fine. I'm the same type of player, but I'm also not playing for $16,000 prize pool. So
It might be the ticket to that $16,000 though. Maybe you just did something a little off meta, and people were like, "I never expected that card to be here," and then he wins it. So we'll see. I think in general though, your statement stands true. There's a reason why decks and cards are in the meta, and it's because they're tried, tested, and shown to be consistent. But Kionis versus Lanathel here, Rune versus Haven. Let's see what happens here. And he's going to be using Snow Daria. And how does this matchup play out against Haven?
Well, myself and Exo know very well that Neutral Rune has a very overwhelming advantage. I mean, Neutral Haven, sorry, has an overwhelming advantage in this matchup. Neutral period is just really strong, and Kionis' hand is not very good. Okay, I mean he has a magic missile, so he will be able to cantrip, but like he's oh my goodness, no.
Oh yeah, his hand is not great. The reason why it's not very good against neutral Haven or any of the neutral decks really is because it can get out onto the board with such toughness essentially on all of the followers that cards like Magic Missile, cards like the Snowmen, and all that stuff they're not big enough to stop the early flood. And if you can't stop the early flood against the neutral deck, it's just going to clean you up. Especially with the follow-up that Haven has. Like, if you have that big board followed by the Eagle Man, which we know Lanathel has access to, it might just be too much. There's just not a lot of AoE clear in Conjuring Force. I know.
Look at his hand. His hand is grade A vomit-worthy disgusting, okay? Because, like, I mean, it is. Lanathel's hand is really amazing right now. Whereas, unfortunately, Kionis' hand is anything but. So,
right. Kionis got a very late start. Lucky that he drew into another spell that he could cast this turn to kind of like amp up his spell boosting. Spell boost, of course, reduces the cost of the cards in his hand, except for the Summon Snowman, which Summon Snowman puts a 1/1 into play for 3, but puts one more 1/1 into play for every time you've spell boosted. So it's kind of like the different mechanic. That along with Rhymewind. Kind of
okay, now I got a question for you here. Okay, we just saw Kionis play the Summon Snow here. Would you... Now, we know that the Blade Mage was playable. Would you have played the Blade Mage to take out this Faria, even if, you know... I mean, yeah, the game looks pretty grim as it looks right now.
I think you have to. The reason being is watch how this turn plays out, and it's gonna be over in 2 turns because he didn't take that Faria out. It's literally just over.
What do you mean 2 turns? This game's over now.
Well, it's not going to be over right now. You know what I mean? But this board is going to be set up in such a place that Conjuring Force is just done. Like, you don't take out that Actress Faria here. Now you're just looking at a board, and look at what his options are. Like, well, he just drew a levy, but that's not going to be good enough.
It's not going to do anything. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to trade with the Eagle Man with just the levy. He won't be able to deal with more than enough damage that's already sitting on the board. And it's very unfortunate that this is exactly what happens, but this is what we were talking about in the beginning, where neutral, just neutral period, and this just happens to be that he was playing neutral period is just incredibly powerful versus this Conjuring Force list.
And not taking advantage of the fact that Faria was played before the evolution turn to be able to snipe it out. Basically just said, hey, I'm going to take a bunch of extra free damage, and all of my toughness is going to get pumped so my snowmen can't clear anything out anymore. So really just needed to recognize what that Faria was doing in play, didn't, and it's going to cost him this game.
Like, how much extra damage did he take from that Faria in general? So he took the Evo.
He took 3 from the pumps and 2 from the Evo.
Yeah.
So technically the Evo doesn't really matter, so it was an extra 3 damage that he didn't need to take.
Yeah, and that 3 damage is a difference maker.
Yeah, would have given him at least another turn, maybe.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's just not going to have it because Evo Goblin, he's hungry, he snacked on her face, and it's over.
Yep. Even Marcher's Seed Time would have been lethal there, so... Lanathel closing that one out pretty convincingly. That was probably the most one-sided game we've even seen on the NGE casts. That was super lopsided. Yeah.
That was a car wreck.
Yes.
Like with 10 cars piled on top of his face. Because that's exactly what just happened.
Lanathel has to win with his control sword deck now. So very, very interesting, and Kionis gets to choose kind of what he wants to play against this. I don't imagine he's going to bring Conjuring Force back, but he could. I was wrong the first call.
Do you really want to bring Conjuring Force against a deck that's just going to be jamming a million wards?
Right.
You know,
exactly.
like, yeah, I just don't really know if you want to do that because Control Sword historically has been a deck where you just have a lot of ward, and do you really want that?
No, I don't think so. So Kionis making the heads-up play, not to bring Conjuring Force into a deck with high toughness and wards, things that we were talking about are naturally good against Conjuring Force. So we get to see Mid-Shadow being played. And this looks like a very traditional old-school control sword deck. It's got the Tsubakis, it's got the Blitz Lancer, the Genos, I'm assuming it's got the Front Guard Generals, the Alberts, all that kind of stuff. So very traditional. We'll see if there's anything spicy in here.
So, yeah, right now, I would expect to see some Hedgehog. You know what I mean? Like, because Hedgehog has been kind of like a staple in the what is being considered to be the current mid sword. So,
and it would be perfect for this draw with having 2 rush followers in hand. So, kind of to go over what this control sword's doing, because we haven't seen it on stream a lot, is realistically it just tries to control the early game with rush followers, and then it tries to get to a game state to where its front guard generals like big wards, sabakis, and things like that can just present enough damage paired with an Albert late in the game to just push for lethal after that control has been established. But it has to do it through followers. So there's not like really any outside the box plays it can make. The evolution orbs are very important for Lanathel and so on. So we're going to see if he can actually stop the aggression that Kionis is pushing right now.
There's also one very important facet to Control Sword, and that is that Control Sword is a deck that is not as heavily reliant on evolutions as other decks, because it has a lot of those already built-in rush followers. So it's not as heavily built on Evo, so you can use your Evos on cards like Floral Fencer or whatever you want to use it on to kind of generate more value throughout the game, because you're not so heavily focused on it.
Now I have a question for you. So last turn, Kionis decided to leave up 2 play points and not play a Lurching Corpse. Can you see your reasoning behind that?
No. And that is genuinely simply because I don't see a reasoning behind that. Like, maybe he was thinking, well, it's Control Sword, so maybe he'll jam a ward and I'll be able to run into it with the Lurching Corpse, like on an evil turn. I don't know. I'm kind of just fishing here. I don't see a reason why he did that.
We'll see. So another game where we see a player missing an opportunity for a single damage, and these points of damage can really add up, folks. Even 1 damage can mean the difference between winning and losing a game. So as we see it, Kionis has missed out on 1 damage, so we'll see if that comes into play.
Well, I think against Control Sword, that missing out on any damage is not as detrimental, or actually it's more detrimental, sorry. Because the deck doesn't run healing. Right?
Right, it doesn't run any healing, so all the damage matters.
Right.
But as we see, Kionis didn't draw any of his soul conversions, none of his demon eaters. He has no options here. Thane's not going to be able to come down, so Control Sword's turning into mid sword right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And this is not the draw he wanted to see. Like, This is exactly what he didn't want to see. The Prince Catacomb?
The Albert's going to stay alive, and he's got another Albert / Alwedas in the hand, so this is that. Yeah. This is the first time I've actually seen Mid-Shadow brick this hard. This might be the worst Mid-Shadow draw I've seen.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Like, his Lurching Corpses can't trade because of Lurching Corpses' effect that he can only attack followers with ward and the opponent directly. And we see that Lanathel has Albert. He's got another Alweida. Like, he basically has everything. And this Albert on board isn't going to die. It's a 5/7. There's no way to trade into it probably really at all.
Can't even kill the 1/1.
Yeah, he can't even take out the 1/1. So, I mean, I almost expect a little bit of BM here. No BM? Oh, never.
I like that. That's fine. Angel of the Word can have the final blow every single time. More than okay with that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Lanathel, with the 1 game down, is able to defeat Kionis. The Mid-Shadow lost out to Sword, which is a situation that we have not seen in a long time.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was free.
Lurching Corpse. Let's talk a little bit about Lurching Corpse, and for players who are not as familiar with it, because obviously to the player who's kind of new to Shadowverse, that probably looked a little strange. Lurching Corpse, what does the card do, and why was it not helpful in that situation, Exo?
Sure. So Lurching Corpse 2 play point 1/2 with last words: when it dies, destroy a random enemy follower, and it can only attack enemy followers with ward or the enemy leader. So like, it's not just able to attack anything. So the reason why you see it in these mid-shadow lists is because they have cards that will sacrifice it for you and then maybe draw some cards or have some extra advantage like killing another follower. So it's a value card in the deck. It's not really something that can do anything on its own unless your opponent is playing ward followers into it. So in the game that we just saw big follower after big follower after big follower against these Lurching Corpses, and the Lurching Corpses weren't able to actually do anything. He didn't have any of his cards to activate the Lurching Corpses, so they were just kind of dead cards.
Mm-hmm. And certainly, I feel like that's one of the most effective floor fences we've seen in a long time as well.
Yes.
For a long while. I mean, Floor Fencer was kind of the staple card for Sword way back in the day, but I think as of recently, there's just been so much good board clear that it's been tough to get Floor Fencer to actually stick. And normally, Lurching Corpse would really help with that scenario, but in this case, it just was not, because you didn't have soul conversions, you didn't have anything like Necro Assassins or anything like that. So Kionis goes down one game, and what's important to know, I did check the standings, and the situation currently is obviously Akamaru Red is in 5-0, and because of Akai's loss, Sheepy is actually now guaranteed to be in win or lose. So the scoreline 3-2 is enough to put you into the round robin. The question standing still is that 2-3 scoreline will have a tie between 3rd and 4th place. So because Kionis just lost to Lanathel, that actually impacts how the round robin is playing out. If Kionis had won against Lanathel, then actually we would have multiple players who are guaranteed to be in, because then both Akai and Kionis would have been 3-1, and it would just be purely based on seeding at that point. Our 3 would have been Akamaru Red, Kionis, and Sheepy. But now Kionis is going to be tied up with Akai. So currently, the 2 players that still have a shot is Kionis and Akai. And based on who actually wins out in the head-to-head for the tiebreaker is going to be put into the playoffs. So, let's head towards our next game, Sheepy versus Praetorian. And Sheepy's going to be playing Burn Rune and Control Blood, and Praetorian is going to be playing Forest, Beauty and the Beast, and neutral aggro. And as far as I know, I'll have to go in and look at the deck again, but it's not even looking less Roach. I think it's just Beauty and the Beast. So we'll see. Now, of course, Sheepy is in here already. This game can still be. Let me think. Actually, I think he's guaranteed to be in 2nd place here based on the scoreline, because I don't think anybody can reach 3-2. Any other person can reach 3-2. But we'll see how he fares against Praetorian here. Obviously, Praetorian having a rough time in the round robin. What do you think about Beauty and the Beast and neutral Sword against Bird Root and Control Blood?
Well, Beauty and the Beast, a little iffy about, but I mean, he's probably just rocking all the neutrals, so it's probably just going to be neutral forest with Beauty and the Beast in it. And as we've seen already that the neutral curve is just really, really powerful. So if he happens to get that kind of line, the Beauty and the Beast may just be negligible. It could just be, well, it's in the deck, you know. You know, and I kind of feel like that. It is actually, I don't know. I'm a little sketchy on it though. Like, I don't know. I've never been a big fan of it.
I'd say regular force, like when you're packing roaches and you're doing all that kind of stuff, heavily favored against Control Blood, like super heavily favored. But a natural aggro package against Control Blood, not so great. Like, you don't want to just be doing ABC aggro against Control Blood, because that's what it's built to be. So realistically, I think that the lineup that Sheepy has here is pretty good.
And this will actually be an important. This will actually be a very important game, because Praetorian, based on his scoreline, if he actually takes the win here, then he could also be tied for the last spot at 2 and 3. Now that 2 and 3 is activated to be kind of the scoreline for the 3rd place, right? This is the 3rd best scoreline that anybody can achieve. 2 and 3 now becomes really important. So actually, that statement that people that have 3 losses are automatically out, all of a sudden is not true anymore, just because there's so many people with that 2-3 scoreline. It's just one spot available though. They're all fighting for that 3rd place spot. So we'll see. Sheepy can impact the outcome of this playoffs here by his performance. So we'll see what happens.
So start us off with a little bit about a Control Blood, because you really like it. A lot of people probably haven't seen Control Blood. Talk about why it's good against aggro. Like, what makes it good?
Okay, so one of the best things about, or to actually just give a brief explanation of what Control Blood is. Control Blood is a deck that is very, very, very to the late game. You're going to be playing a lot of reactive cards. You're going to be playing cards like Vampiric Kiss and Hungering Horde and all that. And you're going to be keeping your opponent's board clear as much as possible throughout the game. And the reason that it's very good against aggro is because it has many ways of being able to heal. It has very strong board clears, such as Revelation, especially with which we see in Sheepy's hand. He has 2 of them, and he has Blood Moon. So I would be amazed if Praetorian was even able to stick a board versus this deck, especially with the way Sheepy's hand is shaping up.
Oh yeah, he's got a perfect line here. He's got Blood Moon into Belphegor to draw cards without losing any life. He's got double Rev, and he's got Righteous Devil before essentially all of the Blood Moon runs out. So he can go Belphegor into Righteous Devil or Belphegor into Rev to wipe the board. And as we know, Actress Feria Alice boards look very tough, but not 8 damage tough. So it can definitely wipe out the board regardless of how big these followers get.
Now, to give a little bit of, I guess, insight into Revelation, the card specifically, or rather Blood Moon, the synergy between them, because I talked about it a little bit, is that Blood Moon automatically puts you in Vengeance regardless of what your life total is. And usually you have to be at 10 or lower to be in Vengeance. So what Revelation does is it usually costs 8, and it reduces its cost to 4 if you are in Vengeance. So Sheepy essentially has access to a way to completely wipe away the board from a very early state in the game because Blood Moon forces him into Vengeance.
And it looks like Praetorian's going to say, you know what, you have Blood Moon, so I don't have to worry about your Vengeance, so I'm just going to push as hard and fast as possible.
Now, there is one thing that could actually change this matchup in a very crazy way. And I can't imagine that Sheepy wouldn't just play Revelation here. But if Praetorian draws Albert, and it say Albert running Albert into Alwida, this could be very difficult for Sheepy to deal with after having played the Revelation, because after he plays the Rev, he's not going to be able to play anything else.
Right. But he does have Righteous Devil plus Diabolic Rain next turn if something really crazy happens. So he's definitely not dead in the water to just a single Albert.
No, I'm just saying if he has running cards like that.
Right.
That's yeah.
So one of the benefits of Neutral Sword, so beyond, you've seen all of these neutral decks, they all have their benefits, that kind of stuff. The reason why you play Neutral Sword is for 2 cards, really. One of them is Maisie. You actually see both of them in the hand of Praetorian right now. One is Maisie, 2-play 0.22. If you have an allied follower in play that's neutral and you evolve her, you get to kill an enemy follower for free, essentially. She doesn't have to attack it or anything, it just dies. And then Rabbit Ear Attendant, a 3-play 0.23 in hand, says for every allied neutral follower you have in play, you get to draw a card when you play her. So the refill engine, kind of like Wizardess for the neutral rune package.
Right. Well, for Sheepy's play here, yeah, Righteous Devil just seems like the right play. Evolve it, and he has the Diabolic Drain as well.
I would use it now too, because this is going to push him out of Vengeance.
Yep.
Take up my shield.
So
I won't lose again.
he's at a nice healthy life total at 15. We can see that Praetorian doesn't really have much in the way of, I would say, doing any significant damage this turn to Sheepy.
Right.
So, yeah.
This is essentially just going to see how well Praetorian can gain value out of his cards, because we are going to get to the late game now. He still has to deal with his Bane follower. I'm assuming he's going to use one of the evolution points on this Maisie, because otherwise he's just going to lose a follower to it regardless. So I think the play will be something like Alice into Maisie, Evolve Maisie. But going forward, it's going to be how much value you can push out of this Council of Card Knights into Rabbit Ear Attendant and just keep refilling the hand over and over again to see if you can finally make that push against the Blood player. But the later it gets, the better it gets for Blood. So really just depends on how fast that can happen also.
I would say that Praetorian needs to be able to either end the game or set up a place where the game can end before Sheepy gets to 10 play points, because we see that Sheepy has that Bahamut. So, like, Bahamut is basically thanks for playing for neutral sword. So, yeah, we're going to get to see that. And we do see Mask of Black Death as well. We've been seeing a lot of people running that. And for those who don't know what Mask of Black Death does, it will, it has countdown 5, and you don't take any damage, but when you do take damage, the amulet is reduced in count. equal to the damage.
Shall
It'll
I
absorb
grant your wish?
all the damage
Let's play again.
in that one.
I think you cut out a little bit there, so I'll kind of rehash for them. Mask of Black Death, 5 countdown. It takes damage before you do until it's gone, and if you deal more damage than the countdown that's left on it, it actually erases all the damage. So it's actually interesting that Sheepy chose to put himself into Vengeance instead of blocking the damage with Belphegor right there. What do you think about that play?
Well, he is technically still blocking the damage with he's still technically blocking the damage with the Mask of Black Death. In this way, he's giving himself the ability to not take damage and still be in Vengeance, and that was a great draw for the Falcon. So this sets up Revelation, which is probably exactly what he wanted to do. Get his opponent to kind of lull him into a sense of security, and then now he can just pull the plug on that. Not only that, but he can also play the Righteous Devil. So,
yep.
And since he is in Vengeance, he'll get the Drain and the Bane. So for those who don't know what Drain does, Drain allows you to gain health equal to the damage that the card dealt when you were attacking with it, and Bane will just kill whatever follower whenever it does damage to it.
Yep. And it's interesting because Sheepy chose to evolve the previous turn even with the Mask of Black Death out and not save it for the Righteous Devil for another huge heal like he had earlier in the game. So it feels like he kind of understands the matchup and he knows where it's going and felt like he didn't need the Evo point. He might feel just super comfortable now. And like you said, that Temptress Vampire draw should make you feel pretty comfortable. That's another 5 life gain. It can kill a big follower, it can go directly to face, and then followed right up by the Bahamut. He's looking pretty good right now, especially with these Gabriels just chewing up Praetorian's hand. Very interesting meta call.
Now, okay, let's take a little bit of a revisit to Praetorian's line of play here. He opts to leave the Righteous Devil in play. Okay, he doesn't want to take it out. He didn't evolve his Bane to take out the Righteous Devil. He decided to do that. Now, the only thing I can think of is he's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to kind of bank on Albert and boom. But the problem with that line of play is that he just basically gave Sheepy the opportunity to heal out of range. And obviously he wouldn't know they had the Temptress Vampire, but he just gave him the ability to kind of get out of range of that. And
wow.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Well,
that was like the perfect thing he could have gotten off of Baphomet. Now, I still don't understand why the Temptress wasn't played this turn. Again, maybe he just wants to save it for face. He doesn't want to use it defensively, which I can
actually
totally
agree with that. I agree with him choosing not to use it here. The simple reason is that he doesn't have to play it. Like, he had plenty of ways of gaining health. Again, the Righteous Devil was still left in play, and he had a Diabolic Drain. So it wasn't like he had to play Temptress. And with Control Blood, you're not necessarily in a rush to win the game, even though you do eventually want to win. So you're not necessarily in a rush. It's just that he could do more with his turn. Oh my goodness, look at he could do more with his turn.
That was a little greedy. I don't know if he needed to draw extra cards there. Sheepy falling asleep over here.
I mean, to be fair, there isn't really much that Praetorian can even do in this scenario. I mean, he can use
here's my thought process, right? Like, say there's 2 Alberts in the hand of Praetorian, right? The first one, he doubles up, goes face. It gets traded into, Sheepy goes back up to 3, possibly 8 with the Temptress Vampire. Actually, yeah, okay, that's plenty then. Okay, so he did the math. There's no way even double Albert was good enough for this.
Right. And that's why that's why I was like, okay, he didn't have to play Temptress Vampire. Again, we do want to win, but it's that whole war of attrition that Control Blood eventually went.
I think what we're really just seeing, honestly, on the side of Praetorian is that he teched in these 2 Gabriels just to keep pushing damage, but he found himself in a matchup where he just couldn't keep a board. So those Gabriels are just sitting in hand, eating up slots that could be, Rabbidier Attendants or other things that could be just pushing the game forward. So I think these Gabriels are costing Praetorian a lot in this game, just eating up his hand here.
Now, okay, so we just saw him play the Luminous Mage. I figure, okay, he wants to get some value out of it. Wow, that was a disgusting draw.
Yeah, he has all the tools. I really just feel like face Bahamut here, and then you just kind of snooze until you win. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do see the council. Of course, Sheepy doesn't, but we do see the council. He does still have an Evo point left. But again, this still leaves me to wonder why Praetorian, a few turns ago, didn't bother to take out the Righteous Devil.
Right.
I think that play alone opened up the door for Sheepy to kind of just do whatever he wants.
Absolutely, because that all important 10 play point or 10 life total, and the reason why we say that, guys, is because Sword, everybody knows that's in the game that plays against Sword. Albert is a 3/5 with Storm, but if you play it for 9, it gets to attack twice, and if you evolve it, that's 5 damage. So 5 damage twice is 10. So 10 is a huge life total against when you're playing against Sword. So if you can stay above it, they can't really OTK you in any sort of way. So you can kind of feel comfortable, especially if you have life gain sitting in your hand, to not worry about anything.
I find it's very, at least in Sheepy's case, that he has been incredibly comfortable sitting at this 11 life total. He's been very comfortable. You know, he's get this man a back massager, and you know he is good. You know.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, he definitely feels comfortable with the deck. Sheepy, as we know, is a very control-oriented player, so I'm sure he's played Control Blood in many iterations over the different seasons and set releases, so this probably feels right at home for him. Yeah.
Now, he does leave up a board for Gabriel, and I think you would just...
They're both good plays. I think FMR is slightly better because you get the same amount of damage in while putting out a follower that won't die that you can keep Gabrieling, maybe?
But Gabriel presents more damage in the longer term, I think. So
yeah, okay.
Because it has, you know, its stats. It's just gave that a huge jump.
Yeah, it's so huge jump.
Over so soon.
And he can still keep Sheepy out of vengeance.
Not as important now with 10 play points, but...
Well, it is when you're sitting on 2 Maraudas, you know.
That's true.
In his hand.
Maraudas do a lot of work.
I was like, Marauda's a pretty good card, man.
It's time for fun and games.
Finally get to see one played here. It's going to take out 2 more followers. And realistically, like Aya said, this is just a war of attrition. It's just now we're getting to the point where Blood has all of these options, these super good endgame cards, and Praetorian for a long time could just draw a bunch of, you know, 1, 2, 3 play point followers, which we're seeing right now, which aren't really going to be good enough to finish Sheepy off.
The power of purity to you.
Man,
Gabriel's finally getting some use though, so I'm kind of happy about that.
I'm not upset. I'm not upset. He'll probably use this to trade with the Emeralda and go face so he keeps him out of vengeance. Yeah.
No.
I don't know if I like that though. I think I like pushing all of the Gabriel damage face because of the resources that you have left to you. Like now he's played safe, and how is he going to get the less 11 points of damage in? You know what I mean?
Well, there is so my line of thinking. Of course, we have perfect information, but my line of thinking would be that if I were Praetorian and I leave a 4 power follower on board, is it really wise for me to do that? I mean, I know that he could play another one and gain some, kill me, putting him in vengeance. You know, so.
Ooh.
Wait.
That's only 10. That's so close.
That's so close.
That's so close.
I kind of. Wow, it's so close. Just 1 damage off. 1 damage off. And we see that Sheepy has the way of just healing out of that again. He's catching some Z's over there. You know?
Yeah.
We see
Worst
that
case scenario, he can Diabolic Drain and Temptress Vampire next turn. He has access to Diabolic Drain plus Mask of Black Death if he wants that option. So he's definitely not dead out of the water yet. So.
But yeah, we can see that Sheepy has plenty of ways of healing out of this. That doesn't kill though. I love the Blood Hungry Matriarch, and that it's animated. That's sweet.
And it's animated, yeah. Looking pretty spicy over there.
Yeah, that's looking pretty savage. But we, apart from that,
enjoy your death.
Interesting
Oh,
play.
he's gonna do this and play. Oh, I like this because he can play Mask and Black, and yeah. So
and Diabolic. Or well, I actually, I'm interested to know that play. Maybe he just doesn't need to play the Diabolic Drain. Like I might have considered doing it because the extra 1 damage doesn't really matter. But I guess with the Mask of Black Death, it also doesn't matter with his life total. There's no way to possibly punch through that enough.
Right. So this Albert would actually literally be left just trading out with this Blood Hungry Matriarch because he can't leave it there.
You can get this one.
Okay, he's going to leave it
You
there.
can get this one.
Oh, he's.
Oh, the ecstasy.
I like this. I mean,
I like
that's
that
pretty much what he had to do.
But
So now
then
this
we
is a lot
see-
more tense game than we thought it was going to be, but saving that Temptress Vampire for this long, this is a perfect spot to play it.
Yeah, play it on the Albert. There's yeah.
This is the end.
And this is where, again, we start seeing Control Blood just dominate the game. Like this, Sheepy has been in control of this game for a very long time. And
There are no wolves,
I don't
are
really
there?
see any way now for Praetorian to kind of come back here. I don't really know what he could draw off of this Rabbit Ear Attendant. That's certainly not going to do.
Ooh. That was good, though.
Over so soon.
That was good.
Keeps him in the game. Like, this is the one thing about
Does.
Control Blood. It can look like it's controlling the game for the longest possible time, but it still has to win the game at some point, and it's one of the slowest decks in the world at doing that.
It is. It is.
It's one of the
So
slowest
that's why I
decks
love
ever.
it, because I love those grindy games, man. Like,
Like, you literally have to sit on the edge of your seat until you finally can get those last points of damage in. And as you see, like, Praetorian's been out of gas for so long. But Sheepy, you know, he still has to maintain board control, still has to do little chips. But, like, I think now we're finally going to see it. I think this is over now.
yeah, I mean, he drew another Rapid Air Attendant. I can't imagine him drawing. Yeah, that's not going to do it.
That's not going to do it. So finally, after like turn 55, Sheepy
Yeah.
coming out on top. Took him a while, but he got there. He played the turns perfectly. He knew exactly what he was doing. He made sure he was out of lethal range every single turn, and just did what Control Blood does.
An exemplary battle.
Yep. Sheepy played that game rather immaculately. Not that Praetorian even played badly. Not even that. I do think that again, going backwards, the one play where he left the Righteous Devil in play may have been a little bit of an error, as we saw the rest of the game kind of play out, it ultimately didn't matter.
Right. It did not. The extra 2 life was not what was there, because honestly speaking, if that 2 life wasn't there, with Sheepy's knowledge of the matchup, he could have easily have just gained those 2 life earlier with one of the Diabolic Grains that he had access to or something like that. So,
Right.
definitely able to keep control there. So let's see if Praetorian sticks with his sword, or if he switches over to Forest. I need to see some more Forest. I'm sad that everybody's bringing neutral Forest, though. What happened to good old Roach? Where's my friend
Yeah,
Roach?
see, you know what it was? Everyone saw that I cursed Forest, so they decided to just jam the neutral package into Forest so that they could get it right. That's what happened. That's my story, and
Come
I'm
on.
sticking to it.
Let me see some. Okay, this looks like it could be some Roach. This isn't the neutral aggro package. This is the neutral spell package, which would lend me to believe that there are Roaches in this deck. I'm hoping. I'm gonna hold out hope here. Come on, Praetorian. Show me proud.
You can hope.
Let's go.
You can hope, but I'm gonna cling to reality while he's in dreamland. Okay, the reality is that most people just didn't. They probably just didn't feel like they wanted to, risk playing Roach. They'd rather just stick to the neutral package. And Forest does offer some very interesting options for the neutral package with Flower Princess. And, okay, this is definitely Roach. With Flower
Water Fairy
Princess.
is an interesting choice, though, especially in like if it's tending towards the neutral side. Water Fairy is definitely an interesting choice because it kind of mitigates what Goblin Mage can do, and Fina with Goblin Mage to search out your Roaches, so it kind of hurts your combo. And the deck's kind of slower as it is anyway right now, so interesting choice to add.
Very interesting line. But unfortunately, though, he's just going to end up replaying that. One of the most irritating things when you're playing really against Rune at all is when you're on turn 2 and your opponent kaleidoscopic loads you.
Especially when you're Haven, and I'm sure you've experienced that plenty.
Like, hey, turn
You play a Beast Calaria or a Sacred Plea. They can even wait a few turns, you know what I mean? And right before it's about to pop, bounce it right back to your hand. It feels great.
Yep. So for the people who don't know, Kaleidoscopic Glow, when it's played, it returns a card that has two or less play points to the opponent or to a player's hand. So you can choose cards to get some value out of that to get some use, or you could choose your opponent's card to kind of set them behind in tempo.
So really good in Earth Rune, mostly because you can reorder your sigils. It's a good tempo play early. It's one of the only sources of card draw in the deck early game. So it does a lot of work, a lot of different things that it can do in the early game.
You figured it out.
Okay, so
we're seeing like a very natural Beauty and the Beast hand from Praetorian. This is not going to do anything special other than get the requirements met for Beauty and the Beast and play it and hope it's good enough.
well, we see that that mutagenic bolt is just kind of hanging out there. So
Praetorian doesn't know this.
I know. I say that's how we see it.
No, yeah.
It's not, but we see that that's gonna happen. And Kaleidoscopic Glow again, ruining people's dreams,
showing its value. One of the things like that, this is one of the bad things, and I feel for Forest. Forest really has a lot of those turns where you have to play a fairy just to evo so that you can keep tempo with your opponent, because you're doing a lot of card drawing, you're making a lot of fairies, you're doing a lot of stuff. But when you're playing against Rune and you evo a fairy, or any deck when you're playing against Rune, if you evo a 2 or less drop against them, like, just expect that it's going to get glowed, and just expect to feel really bad about it.
right? So he played Magic Illusionist. He doesn't have any sigils though, so Magic Illusionist dies. It just dies. So whenever Magic Illusionist dies, you perform Earthright, which basically means you crack one of your sigils that are in play, and you just resummon a Magic Illusionist. So this allows you to kind of, just keep reusing it.
Is that an Altered Fate?
Over and over. That is an Altered Fate.
Is there some spicy PTP in this deck too, or is that just a filter card, you think?
Alright, well, I don't even want to speculate. I want to go find out. So, we're about to find out right now exactly what that is.
I just looked at the list.
No,
there are three altered... But there are three Altered Fates. Yeah, so he really wants to Beauty and the Beast. Like, really, really. He's like, I don't have it, ditch in my hand. What's next? No? Alright, let's go again.
Well, he's rocking only 2 Beauty and the Beast. He's not rocking a whole 3. So, maybe he just said, you know what, man? I always want to have this available. And you know what? That's not even necessarily bad.
It's not bad.
I kind of like the idea.
I kind of like it. I don't know if I like 3 of them. 3 seems a little high, but it is kind of good in Force, because Force will have those draws where you're just like, I can't do anything, and Altered Fate can definitely help you out with that. And it's also a spell, like if you map it correctly, you can actually Altered Fate into a Roach combo if you get the Dream scenario off of the Altered Fate. So it gives you more options to the deck, so I kind of like that.
Right. Well, there's the Beauty and the Beast, and it's about to meet a very sad end.
Very sad end.
No shade.
I mean, you see this, and then Mutagenic Bolt happens, and then you're sad.
Yep. So Praetorian trying to clean up the board to make it as hard as possible for Sheepy to actually deal with this Beauty and the Beast. But yeah.
Oz into Laugh.
Yep, he could even use the Piercing Rune on the Flame Rat, which I think he will. Although he doesn't have to. There's no Evo points on the side of Praetorian, so there's not a huge threat that Wizardess will die. So he might choose not to Evo here.
Well, he certainly doesn't have to.
No.
Try to get as much value out of his hand as possible. There's no reason to Evo this to keep it alive. He loses the other Mutagenic Bolt, but he will be able to refill his hand with another Oz.
Well, that was a great draw from Praetorian. Now he can actually deal with the Oz, and then the Mutagenic Bolt will go. And then, honestly, Praetorian with this Altered Fate in hand and the Glimmering Wings, he could just filter a ton after this turn. So deal with the board this turn, and then just filter, and hope he goes crazy next turn. at least set up a better endgame than what he has access to now.
I just want to say I really like the play animation for Thornburst. It's not something you get to see very often, but it kind of has that whole Tsubaki animation where it's just like...
It's legendary. Thornburst is legendary. I think that's a really cool aspect of the card.
Yes, it is. Like, and just as a principle thing, I'm actually incredibly glad that they made a card like that. You know what I mean? Like, that they made it where you could actually produce a legendary card off, or rather Thornburst off of a different card other than Rose Queen. So I thought that that was really cool.
Very cool. Oh, that's right. That's why it is legendary, because Rose Queen produces it naturally.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. So interesting. I hope they do more of that. I hope they do more of that, because it gives you more value to your animated cards, right? Especially when you get to put stuff like that in your hand, like animated flower person. Putting a bunch of animated value in your hand. I'm coming around, Daya. I'm coming around. Ooh, well, perfect draw.
Great draw.
So I'll be able to clear out both of Sheepy's minions, followed up with an Altered Fate. Because I can't imagine him keeping this hand. There's no reason to.
No.
And this is why you put Altered Fate in the deck, right?
Stump those hands you don't want.
Oh, he likes it.
Well, Master Mage Levies is gonna do a little bit of work, but not by much. I mean, he can Evo to take out something though, so there is that. He could. Oh wait, no, I stand corrected. He could play Master Mage Levy into that, or in Red Hot Ritual. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
I'm actually thinking he's going to go Professor into Levy. So, like, if you do that, it guarantees the kill of the Lilac, and you get all the value this turn.
I like that, too.
Yeah, like Professor, and you have perfect play points to do it. You play the Professor of Taboos, you play the Levy, Evo Levy into the 4/4, and then you use the Crimson Sorcery on the Water Fairy for the Professor of Taboos. Okay, this works, too.
Yeah, because he can use his Evo, take out the ward, and then sigil pop, boom. Here goes Lilac.
Yep. So similar line, just different card.
Yeah. And we can see that Praetorian has 0 to deal with this board.
Yep. This is why I was thinking, like, why not just Altered Fate last turn? Now he's in a bind.
Oh yeah, he's not just in a bind. That man is in 10 straight jackets right now, because there's no way he's getting out of this. Okay, so
he's crazy. Take him to the loony bin if you think he's getting out of this one. Yeah, that Professor of Taboos, like, this is a game that really highlights how powerful that card can be. If you can set up a turn to where you can clear off your entire opponent's enemy board, like, you basically create an army while killing theirs. So it's like you're doing crazy amounts of value with every single thing that you play.
Yep. So, wow. He can't even get any value out of the Hector. No other neutrals. You know.
This is the problem with playing stuff like Fairy Whisperer, Water Fairy. Like, he's playing like half PTP, a little bit of Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an interesting mix of cards. Like, yeah.
I'm a little puzzled.
I've definitely not seen a Force deck built like this before.
No, I have not either. I have definitely not. But as we can see, like, just the Elfman's Assault isn't gonna do anything. At all.
It won't be long now.
Not anymore.
Yeah, because there's no neutrals other than the Hector hand. So, and he got rid of 2 into the.
This is all face. Scream's face. I mean, you have the Piercing Rune plus the Crimson Sorcery. I mean, it just lights out. That's it.
I expect that there's a pose that's going to be coming up in the next.
Oh yeah, Sheepy's got something for us. Let's go, Sheepy.
All right, Sheepy, where's the pose? Sheepy,
pose?
Where's the pose?
Sheepy.
The pose.
Aw, he was just excited to win. That's okay, Sheepy.
I'm disappointed.
Sheepy, Sheepy feels like maybe he was preoccupied with thinking about what he was going to do with his playoffs winnings that he is now on track to get. But so Praetorian will lose. There's no crazy 2-3 tie situation. But let's take a look at the standings and see where the scores are at the end of Group A. So I believe that is all the games set here. So Akamaru Red is in the playoffs 5-0 as the number 1 seed for Europe right now, and probably the number 1 seed technically, if you want to go by this scoreline, out of the entirety of the European season. 5-0. The cleanest record. Disastrous Sheepy at 4-1 is also in the playoffs at the 2nd seed for Group A, and that 3rd spot for Group A is going to be tied between Kionis and Akai, and finally the last 2 spots between Praetorian and Lanathel not going to the playoffs. But we've already looked through the head-to-head records, and based on their matchup, Kionis has beat Akai prior, so Kionis is going to be the 3rd player making it into the playoffs, meaning that from Group A, our 3 players are going to be Akamaru Red, Disastrous Sheepy, and Kionis, and that is now decided. So, there you have it. That is Group A, and finally, we have the first 3 players that we're going to see moving on to this playoffs bracket to win a total of $16,000 worth of prize pool. How do you feel about this lineup? And especially today was kind of rocky. I feel like there was there's a lot of losses here and there. I think Lanathel really put a wrench in the system, and I think it was a pretty scrappy day. How do you feel about Group A shaping up this way, Aya?
I can't really say it's not expected. We already saw Akamaru Red just kind of run through Sheepy. We already knew was an incredibly good player. Kionis, we've seen that he's a good player as well. Just, sometimes get unfortunate draws and all that, but that happens to everyone. The rest of the thing, I just felt like it kind of played out exactly the way we would have expected it to play out, given what we've seen up to this point. So, yeah.
Akamaru Red blazing off, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't expect him to lose, especially after his statements. Sheepy, we've known for a long time, know he's one of the better players, so I expected him to be up there. It was really that last slot that was up for grabs, and as we saw, that's exactly what it was, up for grabs, and some tiebreakers handled that for us. So,
absolutely. So, with that, we are halfway through the broadcast. Group A is a wrap for Europe. Now, if you guys want more information about the Shadowverse Open, go ahead and visit our website, shadowverse.nge.io, to get that information. Tournament registration, which is not open, broadcast times, and more. We have some really cool interviews there with players and some guides about decks that you can take a look at. Some of the decks featured in the Shadowverse Open are written about there as well. Also, for social media, at Shadowverse Game is the channel that you want to go to on Twitter. Tweet at us or look for tweets about announcing dates, events, all that kind of good stuff. A lot of pack stuff going on right now. That Ultimate Carrot, I hope somebody's banished it by now. That thing was running around way too... I am half expecting, please God no, let this not happen, that the Carrot's going to walk into the studio now. But I feel like
that's a stretch. The Carrot would have to make it on the plane and then out through customs or security or wherever he comes from. I don't know.
Could you imagine the Carrot just like on the conveyor, and security in the bag is just going across?
It could definitely intimidate its way there, but I don't know if it could get there by regular means.
Actually, you've met the Carrot in person. Is it just an on-camera persona that the Carrot is just this really obnoxious thing, or is it actually like that?
No, it's even worse in person because the Carrot will come up behind you and brush your hair or mess with you a little bit. I think it attacked Carrie on one of the days, our cosplayer for Wizardess of Oz. She got really scared. So yeah, it was just general creepiness. Yeah, it was good though. It's good creepiness.
If the Carrot ever comes around me, I'm gonna go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of carrots and snap them across my knee in front of it and see how it reacts.
You said good creepiness?
Creepiness? Yeah.
You said he was good kind of creepy? Someone just coming up and randomly touching you randomly?
Yeah, it's good kind of creepy because he's in costume, you know what I mean? It's friendly, you know it's not going to be malicious. I mean, I guess you don't really know, but you kind of know. It's kind of good. It's kind of, it's good.
We're talking about breaking carrots, but what we have to do is take a break ourselves. When we come back, Group B of the European Round Robin, I'm going to try to wash the memories of carrots out of my mind now. The NGE Shadowverse Open NSVO. Did I get that right? NSVO.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what it is. Actually, do we refer to it as the NSO or the NSVO?
It's
NSVO.
definitely NSVO.
NSVO? Okay. You see, I
Yeah.
knew I'm smart. See? I can do it. Sometimes I do things right.
Can't remember the name of your own thing, man.
Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. We're back from break. We're about to head into Group B of the European Round Robin. I'm your host. I can't remember my name, and neither do I remember or care about those guys' names at all. But they're here to talk to you about Shadowverse. That's, of course, ISMPI and Exodium from the Shadowverse community. Let's take a look at some things. There's some really cool things coming down the pipeline for competitive Shadowverse. Obviously, the playoffs are heading here, but Season 3 of the Shadowverse Open as well. And this is very important because it's not just Season 3, but it's the World Grand Prix in Japan. So, this is how it works. Season 3 will have 3 qualifier weekends. 6 new players will be found from those qualifiers. These 6 players will join the top 6 from Season 2 to make a new round robin of 12 players to play in Season 3, and that starts October 7th. So that's the quick rundown of Season 3. But the World Grand Prix is kind of another thing that's happening. In December, there's going to be a big international tournament. I'm going to see if I can get the numbers. Actually, I have in my handy dandy notes the exact numbers. Actually, I lied. I don't.
Well, I can tell you how much prize they're playing for. They're playing for $120,000 in total prizes.
Say it again.
And
$120,000.
How much is that, Aya? Say it again.
that's a lot of money. It's $120,000.
$120,000. I cannot count that on my hand. I can only count $5 on my hand.
Can't.
We need a lot of hands to count up to $120,000, but that's headed your way. I believe it is 6 players from Japan, and then 3 from Taiwan, 3 from Korea, 3 from North America, 3 from Europe is going to be the entirety of that tournament. And we are going to invite out our 3 players from North America and our 3 players from Europe to go to Japan and compete. That's definitely something to look forward to at the end of the year for competitive Shadowverse. That's kind of alongside Season 3, there's going to be a tournament specifically to see who will be decided to go to the Grand Prix. But you'll have more details on that later as the days are to come. Currently, we're still in Season 2, though. That's looking way ahead into the future, you know. But let's come back to Season 2 and take a look at the standings for Group B. We talked extensively about Group A when we have found the 3 players to represent, but Group B could be an entirely different story. Everything is up in the air right now. We've got Suzzoni, Catch, and Fatina kind of in the top spots, 3-1, 3-1, 2-1, and they could all be 3-1 at this point. And then SCS, Symphonis, and Derzello kind of in the bottom 3. We've got 2-2, 1-3, and 0-3. And at this point, I don't even want to make any more predictions because based on what we've seen in Group A, just a number of things can happen. But as these games play out, clarity will be found. And by the final game, we will know exactly who is going to move on to the playoff stage. Unless there's some crazy rock, paper, scissors, we're going into cycle tie situation that's going to be incredibly interesting to deal with. But honestly, what do you guys expect out of Group B here? Suzzoni has been the talk of the town. He's a very animated person. He started out on a strong foot, but took his first loss. Senpai, do you think he's going to continue on his tear here?
I think that it's certainly possible. Suzzoni has certainly shown people the power of Conjuring Force. I'm very interested to know whether or not he is going to continue the trend. If that is going to be enough to carry him forward.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like we're going to be jumping into our first game, and that's going to be Fatina versus Derzello. So Fatina is going to be running Dragon Ramp, Shadow, Mid Shadow, and Haven Aegis, and Derzello is going to have Aggro Sword, Haven Neutral, and Neutral Rune. So that's a particular set of decks here. A lot of people, again, are playing neutral, are going more on the aggressive route, and I feel like that's a response to the most recent changes. But Fatina or Derzello, I feel like Fatina has been ramping up, so to speak. He had a rough start, and especially was kind of, maybe not necessarily prepared for the first week, but as the weeks have gone on, he's actually done really well and was the one to provide Suzzoni the first loss. Meanwhile, Derzello is trying to build houses for people. He is actually constructing bricks and then continuing to use those bricks to build houses, not for himself, but for others to live in, because he has been losing quite a bit. How do you feel about this matchup? I feel like Derzello is a very strong player, but just not able to show that off. What do you think, Exo?
Sure, so it really feels like Fatina's bringing old meta, while as Derzello is bringing new meta. So it really just depends on how well Fatina has tested, and from the looks of it, especially from the last week of Round Robin, he's tested these decks very well. He knows how they compete against the new decks. I kind of favor him, just in the fact that he's brought old decks, probably tuned them to beat these new neutral decks, so I think he's in a good place.
And we're jumping into the game now, we're loading in, but what's going to be important for me is to see if Fatina can continue the streak and kind of push himself up to that upper echelon and actually make it into the playoffs, because it really feels like he's kind of at the last stretch of this race and has to just find the extra willpower to push through. But it's going to be Rune versus Garuda Haven. How does Garuda Haven play out against neutral Rune here, Aya Senpai, and how do you think this match is going to end for the two players here?
Well, like many matchups, he is certainly playing Lion, so this is essentially Lion Haven versus Neutral Rune. But Derzello he's got a nice curve. He's got 1, 2, and 3, so just gonna have to figure out. But Fatina, who is trying not to breakdance at the moment, is
can we take a brief moment to talk about how we started with a band in Forest, and then we've seen multiple players dancing. I think it's just a music kind of day.
Yeah, well, you know what? I can't blame him. I mean, I be jamming on my stream, so hey, I can feel it, bro.
Yeah, I can feel. All right, so sorry to interrupt. So go ahead and explain the rest of this matchup real quick.
All right, so the rest of this matchup really just comes down to how well Derzello is going to be able to actually handle Fatina's flood, if it ever happens. What we see right now is we see Derzello. He has a very aggressive hand. So,
yes. I think there's a lot more weight in Fatina's side. Plus, he had the play, meaning he was able to actually execute. He doesn't have a great aggressive line, but he has an okay aggressive line, which he was able to execute here. And he's got a lot of punch afterwards. If we're looking at Derzello's hand, talk about building a house full of bricks. It's full of all of these little tiny followers, and if he doesn't draw anything with more substance here pretty soon, he might just get outvalued. Yeah,
that's certainly possible. Like Snow White in Fatina's hand is probably going to put in a lot of work. Being able to deal with these non-Alice style boards. And while that Snow White is helping clear off these non-Alice style boards, Fatina's just going to be able to assemble a massively big board. I mean, his Lion's at 5, so realistically, he could play that next turn.
And this is definitely an interesting take. So this isn't normal Aegis Haven. This isn't normal, like, I'm going to control Haven. This is, I'm going to kind of mix some of the elements of neutral Haven tempo into being able to end with Aegis if I need to. So it's kind of like a departure from both the styles of decks and kind of like merge them together. So I kind of like this, and it's showing that it can put together a very good curve here. So
now, I actually kind of like this. This also fits very well into what we've been seeing from Fatina in previous weeks. In the first week, we saw him bring like that whole triple combo lineup, which he immediately abandoned. And what he's decided to do now was he's decided to go with something that is a very style attack. And while still having that late game, if the game goes this long, I still have answers for you.
This is just going to start snowballing for Fatina, especially without being able to deal with that 5-5. Now he gets to play out even more followers. He gets to flood the board, Lion into Beast Call Aria.
Disgusting, man.
Yeah, just disgusting. This is the power of Lion, and we've been seeing it in all of our Haven games so far, except for the Seraph one, where it produces so much value in a single turn.
I'm through.
Yeah, and Derzella's not even going to try.
I don't blame him. What was he going to do?
Yeah.
What was he going to do? He was just going to sit there.
He could kill one follower, the 4/4, and then he'd have to deal with 10 damage, followed by another push the following turn. So, yeah. Yep. Neutral things plus Haven plus Lion. I mean, they're doing things today. They've been doing things all week, though, so.
Yeah. So, Fatina is now going to be on his shadow list, and we did see this list before. In not last week, because last week was a mid-season special, but the week before, we did see this list get played, and we know that this man's running Deathly Tyrant again. So
yep, he won with it.
Yeah,
you know.
And despite the changes from the time between now and then, he's still running 3 Ektar.
Yep. Ektar still seems like a really strong option. I think some players, not all players, but some players have been feeling that since the mid-game / late-game power that Ektar just did by himself might need a little bit of help now, and I think that's why Fatina is still running the Deathly Tyrant. Obviously, he thought it was a good option before, but I think he might even think it's a better option now.
Well, right now what we see is Derzella's hand's actually a lot better than it was before.
Yes. And has an Eagle Man to drop down, has a good curve. We get to see Brick Corpse here again.
Yes,
Corpse is still good, but this actually I want to say this. So this to me highlights laziness. Lurching Corpse has been a staple in the deck this entire expansion, but now when you're expecting all of your opponents to be hyper aggro, is Lurching Corpse still the card that you want to have in your deck?
That's a good question.
Like, obviously it's really good with Soul Conversion, obviously it's really good with Demon Eater, but as we can see, like, hands without them, they just kind of sit there. They deal 1 damage over time, sure, but it's like you're using a turn and you have a follower in play that can't really do anything.
Well, then let me ask this. Since you proposed that, the question that I have is, do you actually think that, or rather, what would you think would be a suitable replacement for? Oh my goodness!
Just another 2-drop. I mean, you've got Dark Conjurer, you've got, I mean, Spartoy Surgeon if you want more shadows. I mean, like, you got a ton of options in the 2-drop slot for shadow. You don't have to go with Lurching Corpse. As a matter of fact, if you look at the top 8 of Season 1 of NGE, there wasn't a Lurching Corpse to be found in most of those decks. They were a lot more aggressive. Now, obviously, the game is a little bit different then, but Lurching Corpse came back. It was in, then it was out, then it was back, and now I think it should kind of dip back out again.
All right, I think I want to talk about Derzella's line of play here. His line of play was to play Eagle, and just push all the damage that he could. Do you think that's right with the Lurching Corpse sitting there, or like he did just give Lurching Corpse a target?
He did attack him. He doesn't have any other plays, I think, is realistically the only reason. I think he wants to maintain being aggressive, and it's really the only way to do that. It does give some value to the Lurching Corpse, actually a lot of value. And yeah, this is just all going to get cleaned up. He just didn't have any better options. He didn't get a good 4-drop, essentially, or a good turn 4 play.
Okay. Wow. And then we're seeing a power Prince Catacomb once again. It's like he never left.
Might be slower, but still hasn't lost his value.
Yeah. We're seeing the value of that. And for those who don't know what Prince Catacomb actually does, and what it does is when it comes in, it has fanfare. Give all of your followers last words, summon a skeleton. So all the followers that are in play gain the ability when they die to just summon another skeleton. So they can just replace themselves, and it can be incredibly difficult to deal with a full board.
The real battle begins.
Yep. And it's important for shadow generation. It's important to keep boards up so that you can have targets for your Cerberus, Mimi, and Cocos. It's good for Ektar turns. It's just good all around. And it's just good to keep damage flowing and good defensive options open. Ooh,
So-
there's one of the combo pieces.
Yeah, but I think, given from what we're seeing right now, I think that if Drizello could somehow manage to get an amulet in hand, he might be able to, kind of run away with the game.
Yeah, there's not like Fatina has an Ektar and one zombie party left. I really don't agree with trading out the board here. I don't see any reason why. Just he doesn't want to lose value with his 1/1s, I suppose. But using up a zombie party to do that, I don't know really how effective that is.
Right. Oh, he's
just going with tempo.
He said, "You know what, man? Deal with it."
Let us conclude.
And this coming into an Ektar turn, so definitely courageous. This is good though because those are 5/5s, not X4s, which Ektar can
Yes.
easily deal with. So.
Well, I mean, he can still kind of deal with it. I mean, the Ektar does boost the other followers that he has in play, so he could still be able to clear the board. Obviously, he would have to trade out one of these zombies to get full value on the Ektar. I said one of the skeletons. Sorry.
Yeah, he does have a great play this turn. He can trade that out so that new 1/1 gains rush. He can trade both of the 1/1s into the 5/4s. Ooh,
It can't be taken.
not doing that. So this is a very interesting line to me. I felt like he could have cleared the entire board, but he gave up the option to do so.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems a little sketchy, but I don't know. Maybe he's just saying, "I don't believe you have anything to deal with, this." But we also can see that Fatina doesn't really have anything after that Ektar.
That's true. So that's what I mean. Like, because of what he has access to, that single Ektar is the biggest push he's going to be able to make. I feel like clearing out all the 5/5s would have been paramount.
Darn it all!
Yeah. And we're gonna see Zombie Party here, but
Still no way to deal with this 5/5. Like, him leaving that 5/5 in play might just cost him this game.
yeah, it very well could. And I don't think that if you're okay, this is a very interesting position for Drizello. He has to consider whether or not he is going to just go face, or if he's just going to play the Goblin King and hope for the best.
He has to go face. There is no defensive option here. If you go defensive here and your opponent has an Ektar, you lose. If you go offensive here and he has an Ektar, you lose. So
Right.
you just have to pray that he doesn't have Ektar and just and hope for the best, essentially.
He's thinking about it, though. I think he's actually thinking about trading.
I don't like it at all. I mean, if he trades here, it doesn't improve his situation.
Right.
It's he still loses the game. Okay,
All right,
good.
he went
All
face. I like. And that isn't gonna do it.
That's not gonna do it. Is he gonna be able to clear board here? Two, he can clear board, so he's not dead yet.
Yes.
So now it's top deck mode for Drizello. Does Drizello have the random Gilgamesh like we've seen in some of the decks? Let's take a look.
They're so fresh.
I don't know.
Come on,
That's-
Gilga. He does. He
I
has a
actually
single
think he does.
Gilgamesh.
Yeah, I would think he does.
Come on, baby! Ooh, same. There you
It's
go.
the same thing. It's the same thing. And I like how nonchalant Drizello was about it. Oh yeah, I had it already.
Yeah, had it the whole time.
No big deal. He's just like,
Perfect.
yeah, He's not even gonna get excited. He's just, whatever.
So it's a funny thing talking about Gilgamesh because I've seen it pop up a lot more since this new set came out. Gilgamesh used to be a card that you'd never see except for in meme decks, but it's an 8-play 0.54 with Storm, just neutral follower that anybody can play. Kind of undervalued for the stat cost, but because of how aggressive these neutral decks are, it's actually a really good way to push damage after Evo points are gone. It's just 5 damage straight to the face. It tops out your curve. You only really need to throw 1 in your deck because you don't want to draw it early. You don't want to draw multiples or anything like that, but the funny thing about it is it went from like an unplayed card to like 1 in almost like every neutral deck out there. Just a very interesting transition to me.
Well, I think that Alice as a card kind of gave it a new life.
Sure.
Being able to play Alice and then, of course, buffing that Gilgamesh to allow it to do even more damage when it comes down. I think it kind of gave it a little bit in life. Also, neutral just gave it a reason to be played. So yeah,
That's true. That's true. So let's get into the Rune versus Shadow matchup. This matchup's actually very even, especially now with the Ektar nerfs. Like, they basically just try to throw haymakers at each other as much as possible. The play not as important in this matchup now that Felice doesn't have the free enhance effect, so it has to play a lot more fair. So it really just depends on the big mid game / value on who can generate more, who can continue to present possible aggressive boards, and who can't.
right. So what we can see right now is that Dorzello doesn't have the quote unquote God curve, going into turn 4. He doesn't have like everything into Alice. But that doesn't mean that he's necessarily it's not necessarily that he can't do anything about it though. He does have Felice, so he will be able to start pushing damage if he wants to do that next turn. But we just saw Fatina get a lot of value out of it.
Yep. So Erd, one of those effects that you play in Shadow, so that you can get use out of that Lurching Corpse, which kills a follower of yours, and then it just resummons it, or it can kill an opponent's follower if you want to like de-evolve it or reset its health or something to that effect. So it has a lot of play to it.
Yep. Dorzello is like, you know what, man? Your face is the only place I'm going.
Yep. I agree, especially with the Hector draw. Like, you're just like, okay, I've got a consistent source of damage. He's got 7 more damage right out of hand that can't really be answered by Fatina at the moment.
And as we know, Shadow doesn't have really any heals outside of maybe the one card that happens to be Fatina's card sleeves. But in general, it just doesn't have it.
Yep.
Hey, that hurt. Food should act like food.
Oh, another one of the activators. We actually see Shadow drawing some of its sacrifice outlets this game.
Yep. And there's an Alice, but I don't think that's going to matter much.
Nope.
I think Dorzello is just going to go all in on the dome piece.
And he's like, you know what? All I need to draw is one more card to win this game. Another Hector will do it. Another Felice won't do it. A Gilgamesh would do it. He's got stuff he can draw here.
Yep.
Even a Dance of Death if he's playing Dance of Death.
Well, I don't think he's doing that, but that kind of lends to, kind of like the power of Felice as a card. That even with the nerf, that she can still set up very, scary lethal situations.
Well, her power and toughness is huge for her cost already. The fact that she can also kill an enemy follower while dealing damage to the opponent on the same turn is pretty good.
Now, I would like to point out, Fatina played his Midnight Haunt. And for those who don't know what Midnight Haunt does, is when it has fanfare, you just gain 13 shadows. Period. And at the last words of it, so basically when it leaves play, or when it itself dies, all your shadows go to 0. Period. Okay? So I believe this is for him to set up a Death's Breath turn, because there's no real reason to try and set up a Death Tyrant at this juncture.
Right.
I bloom on stage.
Could have been going for the spike. 13, 15, 16. It was actually a lethal setup had there not been a ward played that turn. So actually it was a lethal. Oh, well, that's right. He didn't have the 20 shadows anyway. So yeah, the Deathly Tyrant ward would have been active.
Right.
But all these wards aren't going to matter. We've seen Angel of the Word in Dorzello's hand. He needs 1 more damage.
Yeah, 1 damage.
He needs 1 damage.
And that is not the damage.
Yet. I would suggest playing that to filter the deck out, though.
Yeah. But Fatina's also about to lose all of his shadows. So that's not necessarily important here. He already got the value out of his Death's Breath. But... Oh, wow. I would have face. I think I would have went face with that one damage.
Interesting. Either or just not play it. Like, I feel Goblin Mage to filter to get a better draw. Now he's, like, with the way he played this turn, even a Hector top deck isn't good enough.
Yeah, I think he actually just cost himself the game.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I think what he did was he essentially got scared, and it was like, okay, well, I need to start getting something on board, and he would have won the game.
Yeah,
he would have won the game.
When you get your opponent that low that fast, you have some turns. Give it, like, if you're gonna play that way, play that way. This is one of those instances where we see a player kind of going 50-50 with what he's doing, and it might not cost him the game. It's not like he's dead to rights yet, but it definitely didn't put him in a better position where he could have already won.
Well, he would have won the game that turn had he have shot face with the Angel of the Word, and he's afraid of taking damage when in fact he should have been just playing to the out of just winning the game.
Right.
And now Fatina's just going to get enough butt out of his cards.
This Deathly Tyrant, not so much, but a necessary evil.
Yeah. See, Deathly Tyrant clear is actually exactly what just saved him, you know?
Yes.
So
he needed it, for sure. This follow-up turn, though, it might be over. Fatina, I don't know if he has anything that can deal with this.
Fatina looks a little restless over there, man.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah,
he's got no way to clear out both the 2/2s.
Yeah, yeah, no way. 0.
That's it. Fatina took a little break, and when he comes back, he's going to realize his impending doom.
Yeah, he can't kill him. He can't trade the Lurching Corpse. This is yet another example of the problems of Lurching Corpse. He can't trade with the Lurching Corpse. He can't take out either one of the Carrot or the Kaiser, and there's literally nothing he can do.
Yeah, so let's have a discussion. What do you think the best 2-drop would be to replace Lurching Corpse? So again, we have Dark Conjurer, which we have seen, but it's been in a lot fewer numbers than it used to be. It already runs Lyriel. Spartoy's Surgeon might be more necessary now because of the increasing shadow cost of Ektar, and its inability to like finish the game, so you need to have like maybe even a second Ektar active or something other than that. So Spartoy's Surgeon could be decent. What else do you think, Aya?
Oh, I actually kind of like the Spartory Sergeant idea. There is still possibly the Lesser Mummy, if someone was looking for the Storm. I don't think it would do that, but I like the Spartory Sergeant, again, just to fill up shadows so you can use your Death's Breath, and you can still generate shadows for your Ektars, because you still need shadows. So
Perfect.
I enjoyed that match just because it feels like both of those players in that match just have so much. It feels like they have so much weight on their shoulders. Fatina is very upset that he lost, and Drizello is almost like very vengeful. Like when he gets a top deck, it's like not even happy for him anymore. He's just like, finally, finally, I got something working for me. But Drizello will actually take the win against Fatina. And what do you think about the lines of play on the side of Fatina's side, as well as kind of the timing of the Midnight Hunt? Is that the amulet that gives shadows? Midnight Hunt, is that correct? For some reason, it just like blanked in my mind. The timing of the Midnight Hunt, getting rid of his shadows, not able to play the Deathly Tyrant for the full value. What do you think about those exchanges, Exo? Do you think there were anything in terms of lines of play that he could have done better there?
So Fatina, I like his line of play. Like, he knew that the Deathly Tyrant wasn't really going to become active anytime soon, so he wanted to make sure he could get as much shadows used up as possible, like get actual value out of Death's Breath, because there could have been an opportunity to where nothing was played and then Death's Breath couldn't have ward, so Midnight Hunt was kind of a heads-up play there. I think realistically the game played out exactly how it should be played out, except I feel like Drizello, you know, he made like a slight play that's just completely differing from the entire line of play he had at the beginning of the game, with not Angel of the Word going face or even saving it so that he could deal damage face at some point. But turned out okay for him. You know, there wasn't much left for Fatina to do after he did all that clearing, plus the Deathly Tyrant clear. I think the writing was kind of on the wall at that point.
Well, thank you, Drizello, for taking us to the amusement park for that roller coaster ride of emotions. You know, we've seen some games turn sour when people have missed lethal, and then counter missed lethal, and then counter missed lethal. So that's happened on the Shadowverse Open before. Not a proud moment for.
Super fun and interesting moment, though.
That was definitely that.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about me missing lethal, by the way.
Well,
that's always entertaining.
That always happens, yeah.
I like that picture of that lizard. Have you guys seen it? Where it's just like there with its neck like really weird, and it just says hey 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 hey. I don't know.
Is that you?
Team territory. Yeah, that
That sound like him, right?
that was me right there. Too many memes. All right, we're doing Shadowverse stuff. We're doing Shadowverse Open stuff. Catch versus Essia will be the next match here, and Catch is going to be running Ramp Dragon and Bloody Mary in the Bloodcraft deck, and I would love if you guys could talk a little bit about that deck and kind of what its strengths are. And Essia is going to be running Nep Shadow against Aegis Haven. So, Aya Senpai, what is up with Bloody Mary? Come on.
Okay. First off, Bloody Mary is my favorite card in the game. All right, so shout out to him for playing Bloody Mary. So what Bloody Mary actually does is his response is priceless because I'll reserve my opinion for that. So anyway, what Bloody Mary does is a 4/5, 5 play points. As during your turn, any damage you would take is actually done to your opponent. So Catch's entire deck is set up for, late game combo plays. Not like he's not going to ever play it on 5 unless he absolutely has to. He's set up for much later game combo plays. So he's going to play it with cards like Dire Bond, which does 6 damage to yourself. It will do damage to the opponent instead when Bloody Mary's in play. Or cards like Blood Wolf or Razor Claw. They're going to do a lot of additional damage to the opponent when Bloody Mary's in play. So that's kind of what he's looking to do.
Mm-hmm. We'll see if he can actually pull off that combo. We're about to jump into the game. Catch versus Essia. And Exodia, why do you feel so strongly about this deck that you would be disgusted at the thought
I
of
wouldn't
it?
say I'm disgusted. I'm just like, Bloody Mary is like a running joke with us because Bloody Mary has been in our Deck Doctor segments week in and week out. We've been talking about this card for, 6+ months, like every week.
Yeah.
And it's just every single time you see it played, it just never does anything. You build your deck around it, you do everything you can for it, and then all of a sudden you're just like, well, all for naught. Why am I even doing this to myself?
In comparison to Roland, how much nothing does it do?
Oh, I'm not even going to go there. All right, Roland is the most nothing card of all time, okay?
Okay, in comparison, I still like Bloody Mary over Roland.
Yeah, I agree. Roland may have its time to shine, okay? I'm not going to discount Roland, but for the times that we've seen Roland being played, I mean, you see Roland even followed by another Roland, and then it still loses, always. It doesn't matter. Anyway, let's get into here. All right, so I had talked to the people about Bloody Mary. What is it trying to do against this control deck that Essia is running here, the Nep Shadow?
Okay, so as much, we kind of slag on Bloody Mary a little bit,
right?
But
it's good in this matchup.
This is actually a matchup where it's really good, okay? Right. Because the Nep Shadow is trying to get to that late game, is trying to get to where it can play Nefties, and then of course it just massive tempo swing, right? What Bloody Mary wants to do, as I mentioned already, it wants to control the game up until a certain point. It basically is Control Blood, right? Just a different flavor of Control Blood, more combo-oriented Control Blood. So it's looking to, in the game, I guess, spectacular fashion. Whereas regular Control Blood is just trying to grind you out of the game, and just kind of winning. Regular Control Blood doesn't really work very well versus left at all.
Because it can just generate way more value. And Catch has got super combos in his deck. He's got Bandersnatch to fetch out Spawn of the Abyss. He's got, the combos with Bloody Mary. So he's really trying to do what the old Blood decks were doing, just in a control base. Instead of being all aggro into Spawn of the Abyss, it goes mostly control into Spawn, into Bloody Mary combo, so it can maybe even pull off an OTK out of nowhere.
Yep.
Lucius, I'm sorry.
And so Catch here has... Oh, wow. Okay. So Catch here has played Spiderweb. I'm a little interested in why he decided to play Spiderweb, at least in the deck, in the composition of the deck. I'm a little interested in that.
Could just be more ways to damage himself. Set up with Bloody Mary to even protect Bloody Mary for a follow-up Bloody Mary turn, something like that, late in the game. He might just find it to be his defensive option of choice early. Like, you see a lot of Unicas, you see a lot of Baphomets in these control lists, but you don't often see the Spiderweb imps. So maybe he's just played his, his matchups, he knows how he likes to play them. And that's kind of the tech choices that I've been talking about in the previous weeks, is if you're comfortable with a deck and a certain play style, choose whatever cards make sense to you, because you're the one using them, you know how to use them in the situations that you're going to come across. So play what you know. Play what you're comfortable with.
Well, he's been bringing this deck for a little bit. Like, well, not necessarily this deck, but the Bandersnatch, all of that.
Yeah.
He's been bringing this for a
New
little
flavors.
while. So, yeah. He's all different variations of things he could be doing with Bandersnatch, and I think that's really cool. Because think about it, right? Let's say you Bandersnatch on 7, on the following turn, it pulls a Bloody Mary out of your hand. Let's just say it just happens to be like that. You got a bunch of cards that damage yourself. You can just straight up OTK your opponent because you haven't actually lost any play points, So it's kind of cool.
I think it's cool. I like the pulling out the spawn still, but then you have the Bloody Mary to just deal a bunch of damage after the spawn was in play. So, because I don't think Bandersnatch gets Bloody Mary. I think it gets 6 play points or higher. So I think the Bloody Mary is meant to be as like just a combo finisher after it pulls something.
It does get 6 play points or higher, so that is that. And
yeah.
So completely ignore what I just said. But that would have been cool if it worked. It's so rare. Only person I ever see playing Bandersnatch is Cat.
Yeah. And we're seeing a natural evolution of the deck. Like this, unlike Sazoni's been playing about the same list every single week, if not just a card or two off, whereas Ketch is basically changing his end game, changing his mid game, changing his early game, like week to week with a similar deck, so it plays out differently. And so far, we've seen it work pretty well for Ketch.
It has worked really well for him, and what we are seeing right now is, Essia kind of coming up on that very pivotal Neff turn, when Neff comes down, Mordecai comes with it, and even with Ketch's very creative and clever ways of playing this deck, I don't really know, especially not with the cards that's in his hand, how he's going to be able to really overcome the Neff when it actually does come down.
Right. Honestly speaking, what he's got to do is make sure that Essia cannot clear his board, so that Nephthys can't accurately pull what she wants to pull, while setting up, and Spawn of the Abyss is a perfect setup for that. So, like, I feel like he might ignore the Bandersnatch, or play a Kawi into it, but that would be good for Ketch, because if Ketch can basically run the Bandersnatch in, fetch a Spawn, and play another Spawn, then there's not a really good way for him to deal with that. Okay, so he is going to go for the board clear option. He knows what he needs to do.
Yeah. Essie he's a vet. He's been playing for a while, so...
Ooh. So this is perfect. This is exactly what Ketch wanted, so that he can set up the spawn. Now there's no way to easily kill this unless Essie gets lucky.
Hey, man. Never count out someone getting lucky. Oh, well, nope, there it is.
Oh, never mind.
The soul conversion.
Yeah, the soul.
You were saying... So,
yeah, never mind. Forget what I'm saying.
That's his face. He's like, yeah. That happened.
Ooh.
The copy didn't actually hit it.
So this is what happened here for you guys that don't know. So it always pulls Kawi, and Kawi normally kills the biggest follower and you gain life. However, a Lurching Corpse got ordered before the Kawi, so Lurching Corpse went off first and killed the spawn, so it still dealt its damage. An interesting interaction for those of you wanting to build Nep decks, and if you want to play Lurching Corpse or not. Another reason in another deck not to play Lurching Corpse.
Let us conclude.
I actually like this a lot. This set.
Well, a mental awaits.
Hard call Bloody Mary. So
Yep, I like this line. So basically, he's hoping to draw the namesake. Let's go, Bloody Mary. Come on, baby.
Yeah. Hey, I want to see Bloody Mary win a tournament match, okay? I will fall out of my chair, okay?
This could easily be it. There's 2 Mask of Black Deaths. There's, plenty of removal in hand on the side of Ketch here. So he's got some turns.
As long as he doesn't get irritated.
Yeah.
Okay?
Your death will resurrect the master. Gotta see me dance.
All right, baby, let's go.
Yeah, I want to see Bloody Mary off the
So,
top. Come on.
Yeah, Bloody Mary off the top would quite literally deal 10 damage with the 2 Razor Claws in hand. So he's got exactly lethal with the Bloody Mary here.
Hey, he's got more than that. He's got the Dire Bond too, man.
Yeah, he's got the Dire Bond too, that's right. So actually, yeah, he's got 11 damage, so yeah, just one over lethal here. Okay, and then he's got to still deal with this, yep.
Master could eat you.
And then he has a mask. So
Yep, so that'll heal another 5.
Don't play anything else. Don't play anything else. Don't do it. Don't play any Razor Claw. Nothing. Just pass.
He can't. He has to hold. I guess he could play
Oh
a
no,
Razor.
he's playing it. Okay, maybe
I don't
he's
mind
like.
this. I don't mind
Okay.
this because
I
technically that
can
Mask of
understand.
Black Death is still going to block all 5 damage from the Mordecai, and it gets him that extra 3 damage in now, just in case he needs another outlet to victory. Like, if he can survive with a Bandersnatch, get another spawn out, he can still win this game with that other Razor Claw.
That's true. I personally would be just a little concerned. Well, actually, I guess it doesn't matter if Essia gets another Kawi. He's played 2, so I guess it doesn't really matter too much at this point. If he gets another Kawi or not, because the damage that would be dealt by the Bloody Mary stuff would actually be going face. So completely ignored. So there's one Mask of Black Death down.
I'm like on the edge of my seat right now.
Yeah, same here. I want to see a bloody.
This Bloody Mary needs to come right now. Like, come on, baby.
Okay. Not only do I need to see it, I need to see how many he's running in his deck. Okay.
He's got 2. He's only got 2.
He's got 2.
Focus on your inferno, Tina.
So sad.
It's okay.
So-
2 seems like a nice hedge. Oh.
That's-
Every turn, come on.
Yeah, but that's not what you want, you know? It's not what
It's
you
okay
want.
though. He can play Bandersnatch. If he plays the Mask of Black Death behind it, it'll block the Mordecai, and then there's 5, 6, 7, 8 damage total that Essia has. So he could play Bandersnatch, run it into the Mordecai to fetch a spawn, which could be lethal next turn, which is a winning play, and play Mask of Black Death to prevent lethal. I think that's the only line of play.
Well,
Unless there's
let's see
only
a
2
catch
Spawn of the
figure.
Abyss in the deck.
No, I don't think that. I don't think there's only 2. But... Oh no, there is only 2 spawns.
Ah, okay, so that's not a winning line. So he doesn't have access to another spawn here. So he has to draw Bloody
But
Mary.
we did see that he had access. His Zeus was already pulled, so he doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah,
He
Zeus
doesn't
is
have spawn, so he actually doesn't have any targets off of the.
Yeah, there's no
Bandersnatch
Emeralda.
anymore.
Yeah. So it's literally just Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary is his only win condition at the moment.
Yep.
With bated breath, we wait.
Yeah, I'm kind of like got this whole huddle thing going on.
I think
Kinda.
Catch, like, and this isn't to say anything bad about his deck. I think he might have overtuned it or overteched it. There are a lot of one-ofs in this deck that just seem kind of out of place. We'll get into him if we actually see him drawn, but
Yeah. The Zeus was a little bit of a surprise. I was like, "What, Zeus?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
hey, it's a great card to pull off a Bandersnatch. Definitely not a bad one.
No,
the way he
I'm
had to
not
use
arguing.
it kind of unfortunate to run into a Kawi, but
Well, basically, the next turn is do or die. You
Yeah,
know,
this is it.
Yeah, he has to draw Bloody Mary right now. Okay, he has to
let's
draw.
go. This would be the most spectacular turn to draw. The turn before you die.
Come on! No! No! I'm so upset.
Bruh.
I'm so sad.
Catch
took
going
it
out the
on
honorable way.
Strength is
Yeah.
formidable.
Not bonding himself to death. Like, oh man. I'm so sad. I wanted to see the Bloody Mary. Oh,
So close. With that game, Bloody Mary would have done something, Aya.
I know.
it would have done something.
done something. It would have done something.
For the first time in like 6 to 8 months, it would have done something.
That is so depressing to say, dude.
I know.
In 6 to 8 months. This is the only. Wow. Oh, that's sad.
Well, Bloody Mary couldn't quite, sent the memo, texted Bloody Mary, say, hey,
She was
let's
late.
meet at the mall at 1 p.m. Come 1 p.m., there's no Bloody Mary. Come 2 p.m., there's no Bloody Mary. Come 10 p.m., the mall is closed, and there's still no Bloody Mary. That's just the way that life is.
That is the way that life is.
My dating life is not going well. I apologize for sharing something so personal on stream, but
Rainey just had to butt in the middle of the match just to tell you how depressed he is, guys.
that hit a little too close to home. Let's see if Cash can make it work the second time around. Guys, take it away.
All right,
Perfect.
so Catch has a much more like control-oriented hand than he had the last game. In this particular matchup, I think he's just gonna kind of play a little bit more mid-rangey. His deck does have that kind of flexibility to play more mid-range versus, you know, a straight-up control list. So yeah.
Yeah, Aegis is always a deck. So Aegis is super powerful because it has a lot of tools that can essentially deal with everything in the game. The problem with traditional control Aegis is that you have a lot of really expensive stuff to answer those problems. So even though Ketch can win in the late game against Aegis, even after Aegis comes down with his combo kills, he might just really want to go in, like you said, a little bit more aggressively if he can. It doesn't look like he has the option this game, but if you can, because a lot of times Aegis might stumble on the way up the curve and you can just get a bunch of free damage in and maybe even just close it out with an early spawn. But as we see,
Bloody Mary late to the party.
Yeah, there she is. Finally, it might come into play this game. Aegis is definitely a matchup where he has time to set up.
Right.
Now, as we say that Aegis has a lot of expensive cards, we're seeing a very low curve from Essia.
Yeah, but he does have Sacred Pleas popping on like, different turns. There's a Demon Key.
That's one of those cards I was talking about. He's running like random one-ofs like Demon Key in his deck instead of filling out on things like Spawn of the Abyss or maybe even more Zeuses or stuff like that. So I doubt it's going to have the infographic on there. Let me tell you guys what Demon Key is. So Demon Key is a countdown 5 amulet for 3. Whenever your leader takes damage during your turn, subtract 1 from this amulet's countdown. And last words, at the start of your next turn, randomly put one of the highest cost followers from your hand into play. So it's basically kind of like Bandersnatch in a different way to get cards out of your hand instead of your deck.
Yep.
Very early.
Now I do want to say that while Haven does have ways of being able to deal with, Spawn of the Abyss, it has Tribunal, Themis Decree, all that. Spawn of the Abyss in the Aegis matchup tends to be how you can win it when you're playing Control Blood. Them taking the damage off of it, and I think sometimes even with it, you just kind of have to just say, you know what, I'm going to evolve it, I'm going to use it to get the damage, even if they kill it, whatever. And that's just sometimes what I feel like what you have to do with the card when you're in the matchup.
And what's funny about this Demon Key setup is that it looks pretty good, but against Haven, it's not at its best, especially if it pops the Abyss right into play. Like, it does do it for free, essentially. It doesn't cost 8 play points that turn, that kind of thing. But like you said, with Themis, with things like Tribunal, it's really hard to get maximum value out of cards like that. So it's kind of like a dead card, I would almost say, because you're going to have time to play the Spawn. You don't really need to cheat it with Demon Key, and it's really going to have the same effect.
Well, here's the problem with Demon Key. It's not like Mask of Black Death, right? So it's not when you're, whenever you take all this damage, you remove all the counters. No, Demon Key is for every time you take damage, one instance of a counter gets removed. So that's a very significant difference between the two cards.
Yep.
One bite's all I need.
Now I imagine it can do the Lion of the Golden City trick where it pops, something down into play super early against an aggro deck, which I think is why he's running it. But as a one-of, it strikes me as weird. I'd rather have.
It doesn't work like that either. Because it only works when you take damage on your turn. It doesn't matter like if your opponent does it. Yeah. So the card's worse than you thought.
Yeah. Whenever your leader takes damage during I even read it out and it didn't process.
Yeah, it's only during your turn.
Interesting card.
Well, I mean, it would work with cards like, say, like you mentioned earlier, like Spiderweb Imp or Blood Wolf or Razor Claw. It would work with cards like that. But again, one of the problems that you have with it is that it's just a card that just doesn't gain any real value for a very long time.
Right. And even when you do get the value, how good is it?
Yeah, because the summon isn't immediate; it's on the next turn. So, like, that's even worse in some cases. Actually, every case. So.
It could be good with Zeus. Zeus, I mean, if you can get Zeus with it, but again, that would tend me to believe that you'd want to be playing more Zeuses. So, in any case, we'll get out of this circular thought. Where we're at in the game right now is we're basically just getting into the mid to late game. We see that Essia doesn't have access to an Aegis just yet, so this is his big push. If this 5-6 and the Garuda, the 4-4, get dealt with, he's really just going to be playing the, okay, I'm just going to wait till I draw Aegis, whereas Ketch has combo pieces in his hand already, so what he's looking to do is basically just start pushing forward. He's got the key popping soon, he's got the Bandersnatch popping, he's got the Bloody Mary plus the Diabolic Drain, so he's looking to go off here.
Well, he opted to play Bandersnatch to get the value out of that card now. And I'm not necessarily opposed to that, because he does still have a Mask of Black Death in hand. He has a Tina that he could use to clear off these two right now, provided that Essia, of course, doesn't just jam a Grimnir as like a heads-up play against that. But and he does have Bloody Mary into Dire Bond should he want to take advantage of that. I think, of course, he'll try to set up through spawns before he goes out of his way to play that. But, yeah. So he does have, a few options to be able to pull this off.
It also is a pretty heads-up play against this deck because he knows that there are curates in it. So had he been pushing any sort of damage or anything like that, or just not doing his setup or clearing the board, it probably just would have been healed back anyway. So he's literally just sitting back into the, I have to assemble within the next X amount of turns. What he's probably thinking is in the next 2 or 3 turns, lethal, so that I can win before Aegis comes out and becomes like a huge problem. And that's why he's okay with taking all this damage now.
Well, now we're seeing, and that's also one other thing that I find that's actually really interesting. We see that Essia is playing Nisha in his deck, and like, was it a heads up against Ketch specifically?
It might be. I mean, you would think that he had the 2 play points available. This was about to pop. He knows Zeus is an option. Just decided to not play it now, maybe saving it for when he thinks he would play the Bloody Mary combo, but it is a very effective tool against what Ketch is doing. It might even be a game-winning tool depending on when he plays them.
Right. We've seen that he hasn't actually played them at all.
Right. He's holding it.
If my brother can, I can.
And he definitely had opportunity this turn, if not any turn, to play it. Like, he had the empty play points, he was being aggressive. That was definitely a turn he could have played one. But being very, very cautious with that card, which I can respect.
Focus on your Inferno, Tina.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, we can see that Essia, of course, has no burst damage whatsoever. He does, of course, have multiple Demon's Decrees, and he does have healing in the way of Curate. But he has no burst damage, so he's not going to be able to kill this turn at all, so that's not even an option. However, we also see that he doesn't have his Aegis yet.
Right. Still no Aegis. I really think this turn is just going to be Curate, Evolve, jam both into the Zeus, or he could just Themis here, and then he might play one of his niches.
I think it's a fair line. I mean, it's
like, you either play Curate or Nisha when you're below 20 against this type of a deck, I feel.
Right. And I think that right now would be a great time for him to play that Nisha, because, or even before, like now, or like even the next, he has another one, so he could play it next turn as well. But he could start kind of chaining them to reduce the amount of damage he's going to take. He opts not to play it at all.
Interesting. Okay, well, this will end up good for him, because Ketch will set up this spawn, and then he can Nisha plus Tribunal to prevent the damage.
Well,
Not
there
all
is
of it,
one
but
other.
a chunk of it.
There is one other thing, though. That Demon Key is actually going to pop next turn, so the turn after it pops, he'll actually get a follow.
March with the pride of the Red Branch.
I like this a lot.
Best way to prevent damage. And he even wards up before turn 10. He's like, I've got the backup Grimnir. I just want to make sure that my opponent can't kill me.
Hey, I ain't hating, man.
Nope. It's a good play.
Well, he could just choose to. Well, Grimnir.
I like Grimnir here, actually. Grimnir seems like a fine play.
Grimnir. There's no. Again, we already know Essia doesn't have any burst, so.
Right. But again, what is that gonna pull? So like the demon key just popped. It's gonna pop the the spawn in hand. What's funny is technically demon key could pop a Bloody Mary into play, and then you could just unload your entire hand if he played. But
he doesn't have a hand like that.
Exactly, but he doesn't have a super damage. It's like self-damaging hand to be able to produce that. So he's kind of in a weird spot here. I think it's just Grimnir, and then next turn you allow the spawn to come into play. Which is unfortunately going to get eaten up by another Nisha.
Yeah. It is unfortunate. But
then those Nishas will be gone for the Bloody Mary combo, which is good.
Yes. Yes. I do find that Essia he's not in a bad spot again. He has Curate, he has the Nisha. So he's not in a bad spot at all. He has another Themis Decree if something too scary comes out. So he's okay. I think he would like to end the game sometime this year, but right now.
Honestly, after that Curate, I'm just trying to think of how Ketch can actually put together 17 damage. Like, is it even possible? Well, he's definitely going for it now. He needs to draw some cards. I think that's why he's pulling the trigger.
That's fair, and we did actually finally get to see Bloody Mary do something, dealing 6 damage to the opponent because of her effect. So that's great. Remember when Bloody Mary's you may not remember because you probably never played the card, but remember, a long time ago, when Bloody Mary's effect would go off, it would actually just be red, and the reason it's blue right now is because Massive Black Death was played. So,
yeah,
I kind of want the red though. I want the red effect.
It might overtake it back when it's Ketch's turn again. We'll see. Well, definitely now.
Yeah, well, definitely now because it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, that Bloody Mary is not staying in play. So it's going to be this into attack the Bloody Mary, play a Nisha, play a Hollow Dogma on the Tribunal. And like I said, I really just don't know how Ketch can, but all of his spawns are gone, his Zeus is gone, one of the Bloody Marys is gone. There's nothing even to combo with anymore. There's just not enough late game in this deck.
Right. It's kind of the problem here. And this is part of the reason why I've kind of gotten away from this style of list. I mean, I tried playing a little bit of a list like this before, and it just didn't really gel with me. Execution, that's an interesting deck, but doesn't really do much.
This is kind of writing on the wall. He can survive. It's not like he's dead. It's realistically just how is he supposed to win? The Grimnir's not good enough here. He could drain plus execute to stave off some of the damage. But yeah, it's realistically just he's playing against a wall right now. He's got a Bloody Mary to finish his opponent off with, and nothing to use it with, so he can't even top deck for the win.
Yep. So at this point, it's just going through the motions,
Yeah.
It's just going through the motions, and it kind of sucks, but the thing is, Essia played this game quite well. He danced around the stuff, and the damage that Bishop prevented was very relevant.
Very relevant. Yeah, I mean, he saved him for the perfect opportunities. He made sure that had that extra, 4 damage been dealt this turn, he could have top decked into the win here with a double draw. He could have drawn Bloody Mary into something, but as it stands, 8 health too much.
Yeah. And that's not Spiderweb and isn't really gonna. It does prevent him from dying. So there's
still gonna live.
It does prevent him from dying, but there's the Aegis. Only.
So now Essia can just be like, I don't care. Now I can trade everything away, play my Aegis. You've got next turn, my friend.
And there's literally no combination of cards you can draw that's going to change this outcome right now.
Nope.
He gets 2 draws, but there's just none. That doesn't do anything. It's so unfortunate, man.
Well, it does prevent lethal yet again.
It does, but it doesn't. Again, he can't win. Like,
Right.
he
Exactly.
just can't win.
I'm pretty sure Catch is gonna see the writing on the wall. So actually, this wasn't a bad setup turn. We know that there's a Themis on the other side, so that's just gonna take care of the board. But if there wasn't like a mass removal spell or something here, this could have given him an opportunity.
Your evil
Yeah.
deeds
But of course, Essie has had a million turns to draw cards here and save up for this kind of stuff. So
Yep. And that's it, man. That's it. He's
that's
tapped
the
out.
game.
Lovely revelation, though. Love it. That's right. You diabolic drain that Aegis, man.
A worthy performance.
Getting all the value out of his cards before he says go.
Yep. Hey, man.
Essia, man, Essia played very well that match. I'm impressed with Essia's play this match. Good on him.
It's almost,
Taking this one
it's
down.
almost like he knew the matchup. He knew.
Right.
He knew. It's almost like he knew.
Seemed very difficult to navigate the waters up against the blood deck that he was faced off against. But SES seemed to do fine. There seemed to be a lot of threats coming from Catch, just not quite able to put all the pieces together at the right time. Do you think that this is kind of a problem more specific to Bloody Mary in general, or is it something that would have been classic for kind of a combo deck just in general?
I wouldn't even say it's classic. I'll let you go in a second. I just, like, my one thought about it is the same thing that I was talking about in game. There's just not enough of it. Like, there's not enough end game. There's not enough to push that damage in the deck.
One of the things about Bloody Mary is that the deck as a whole has to be built around the idea of Bloody Mary winning the game. You can still win the game through other means, but Catch's deck was more like, you know, blood cards with Bloody Mary in it. And I'm not trying to sound insulting by saying that. Like, he's running a lot of good cards, so maybe blood good stuff in a way, but like, it just wasn't built around the idea of Bloody Mary. It was just Bloody Mary's in the deck, and I can take advantage of it with a few cards. So I think that would have actually kind of changed it a little bit if he had actually focused more on the Bloody Mary strategy, especially in both of those games. Because in both games, had the deck had been more built around it, it may have been a different story, especially the first game.
Or if it had like one extra Zeus or one extra Spawn of the Abyss in the deck instead of like a Demon Key or something like that. Like, it's huge in a deck like that because of Bandersnatch and because of Bloody Mary that every single card in that late game matters. So just one off and it can cost you the game. Like we saw the game previous where he could have Bandersnatched to pull out a win with a Spawn, but he didn't have any Spawns left. So
the deck building is absolutely essential, and the little details matter a lot. So what that means is Catch will end up taking a loss, and that's going to impact how this round robin plays out. We're going towards our last two matches here, and the next one is going to be Cizzoni versus Derzello. And obviously an important match for Derzello. He went off to a rough start today, or rather, rough start is the round robin in general, but today he's caught a break. Let's see if he can make it work against Cizzoni. Now in classic Cizzoni fashion, and once again, he's just bringing the same two decks, Roach Forest and Snow Daria, right? He's got Conjuring Force.
my man Cizzoni.
He's going to try to make it work, and people have been gunning for him, as shown last week, against Fatina. Fatina brought very targeted decks and was able to have a lot of success against Cizzoni, and in much the same fashion, Derzello, just 3 neutral lineups. He just really wants to push aggressive. He had Sword neutral, Haven neutral, and Rune neutral. Haven got banned out, which probably is a smart thing, because Haven neutral can be incredibly scary if you have a line play on curve. But Rune neutral and Sword neutral, I think, can equally just screw over Cizzoni here. Predictions and who you want to win. Exodium first.
So, Cizzoni, I love you, man. Your deck choices are on point, just not this week, my friend. Your decks are going to get smushed by these neutral decks. We saw Conjuring Forest lose earlier badly to neutral. Roach Forest has the same predicament against these neutral decks, so I feel pretty bad for Cizzoni right now. Like, he can still pull it out, don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but matchups are against him.
What about for you, Aya?
I'm gonna have to agree, man. Derzello's lineup was he did it earlier too. He just played all neutral lineups, and he won his game earlier, and and he's even more favored now than he was earlier. So,
Maybe Derzello has the opposite effect. The more favored he is, the more difficult it is for him to draw options. He likes fighting from behind, but we're jumping into the next match, Cizzoni versus Derzello. And it'll be interesting to see if Cizzoni ends 4-1 or if he's going to be 3-2, because that might have some implications for how this round robin plays out. I think we'll see. We'll see what the spots are like. They're still fighting for the 1-2-3 of Group B. But here we go. Cizzoni, he's got the track jacket on.
oh man,
He's ready to go.
Sprints.
I guess you're looking for
My man, bringing out Forrest first. This is what we like to see. All right, so
No, I
the
don't like to
reason
see
why-
this at all. Like, no, I don't. You like to see this. I don't want to see this.
So the reason why I said, and his list looks very similar to the list that I run. So on point, Cizzoni, once again. So the reason why I say that Forrest has a really tough time with these neutral decks is because it runs into the same problem as a lot of the other decks. As in, if neutral can put down a lot of toughness on the board early, Forrest has a really hard time dealing with that. It's got 1 damage spells, it's got 2 damage spells, it's got little tiny fairies that it has to use to evolve to keep tempo. It doesn't really deal with huge wide boards early in the game. So if he can get to a mid game to where he's slowed the rune deck down, he can win, but it's an uphill battle against all these neutral decks, I'll tell you.
Yes, and he has managed to ward off quite a bit of damage so far with his Sylvan Justice. Now, I have a very important question for you. This is quite possibly the most important question I could ask on the Shadowverse Open.
to the bone.
Okay.
What do you think that Cizzoni is eating right now?
Boom on stage.
Brain food, man. Brain food. You need it for the roach, man.
No, I think he's eating ice cream. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I
I'll
know.
even go
He's
as far as
definitely-
to gamble. What type of ice cream it is? Okay.
What is it?
I think
Show's over.
it's peanut butter ice cream.
Ooh, that sounds pretty good.
No.
That sounds pretty good. I can go with that. That's what I would be eating if I could eat ice cream right now.
I've got
Something mixed with Butterfingers, you know? Ah, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay,
here's a pivotal turn. If
You're done.
Derzello wants to be offensive or defensive here,
No crying. No looking back.
like, does he want to
I
clear
think-
off the fairies?
I think you go offensive here. Like, if you look
Okay.
at Derzello's hand, he has the Wizardess in hand. He also has Twin Guardians, so he could jam that. That's incredibly difficult for Cizzoni.
Again, this is what I'm talking about. Why go half and half? Why only go half damage to face? Like, I don't think there's really any reason to kill both of those.
Break.
Right.
Preposterous.
Like, you either kill both or you go all face. Like, you don't half measure it.
I think Cizzoni is probably a little happy that that trade took place because he just basically, bailed out on a lot of damage that he would have taken.
Derzello's also playing a combo that's amazing against Forest in Wizardess of Oz and Twin Guardians that'll pop out 2 3/3 wards. So even if the matchup wasn't favored enough, he's got this combo right now. Well, he's playing it early, so it's not going to be as good as if you waited until Roach combo turns, but it exists in his deck. So even more of an edge.
Well, the thing is that it's still pretty good right now because we can definitely see that Cizzoni does not have an answer to all of these followers in hand. And this is one of the problems that Forrest kind of has, is that, it doesn't, outside of like a few cards, it doesn't have like straight up hard removal for the most part. And the removal it does have is very dependent on the cards that you have in hand. So...
Yep. So we're gonna see if he can last. He is playing Elf Queen. Elf Queen is a 7-play.66 that will remove all shadows that you have accumulated this game, and you gain health equal to that amount. So it's kind of like a reset button, kind of like Reno Jackson from another game that we don't talk about. But it can reset you all the way back to full from a kind of dire strait. So it's definitely something that's really good against neutral as well, because neutral can't really come crashing from 20 back down to 0 unless it has a board. It can't do a lot of out-of-hand damage after the EVA points are gone. So it can be a nice little reset button if the game gets to that point.
But the problem that we're about to see right here, this carrier is going to get
I say
involved.
that.
and this is going to be a juicy board that's going to be very difficult to deal with.
Running away is okay.
You might even just have to cash in the Elf Queen now, honestly.
Yeah, but even with the Elf Queen getting cashed in, I mean, there's the Alice sitting in hand with, you know, like, there's a ton of...
Listen, we don't talk about Alice here, okay? Alice is not fair. Alice is just not fair.
Hey, man, I just called a match, okay? It has nothing to do with fairness. It's like I just called a match.
But yeah, this is a great Alice turn, of course, and then he can follow it up with 2 other 2-drops, or actually, he doesn't have board space for that, so 1 other drop with probably the Goblin Mage then.
He's definitely going to be trading into this Elf Queen. He can't let it sit there. Because Elf Queen's going to basically set up a way for Sazoni to possibly get lethal due to 2 roaches and Nature's Guidance in it. So he has to trade with this Elf Queen. There's no way that he can let it sit there.
That's true, and he can do it... Well, actually, it's not easy for him to do this.
Lands of marvels.
Oh, no.
The little ones are 4? Yeah, all 4. So yes, yeah, he has to double trade if he wants to get rid of it. Are you sure he's thinking about doing that?
Well, I'm not saying that he has to do it. I'm saying that I wouldn't want to leave a position where my opponent could roach combo me on board. And
so it's just a matter of how much you've played roach. So the thing is, like, if there's only 1 0-cost card that Sazoni has access to, think about how much damage you have to deal with the combo, right? 20 damage is too high for 1 0-cost card on turn 8. So I would have just gone all face and just set up for
it's not
for
necessarily
auto
that.
the next turn.
It's not, for me, it's not necessarily even just that. It's that you're leaving, like, 8 damage on board, puts him at 12. And you're saying at 8
Oh, I guess I didn't even count that. You're right.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, it's like,
you know what? Forget what I'm saying. I'm like, he's got to deal 20 damage. No, he's got to deal 12 damage. I know. I know. Okay, I know. He could have easily dealt 12 damage. Forget everything I'm saying, okay? For some reason, I don't know why I was thinking this, but like after the attack, he's still at 20. That's where my brain was at, okay? Sometimes my brain functions, sometimes it doesn't function. It's okay. So, Derzella making the good play. I'm not the one in the hot seat, so he's the one that needs to make the good plays, okay?
That's fair. That's fair. But you know it's a bad day when I'm doing better roach math than you are.
Now, to get back to this roach math here, we're actually closing in on a time where Sazoni could actually get there. So I feel like the fact that he gets his Evo point back here to kind of trade with the board, if Derzella doesn't have another good push after this, we're closing in on just going to turns 9, going to turns 10, and just giving Sazoni time to build up the 20 damage that he needs.
Yeah, and Sazoni is very close to it. Again, you getting that Evo point back, very valuable. Very valuable.
Stop.
As a matter of fact, let me see if I can do my quick roach math right now to see how much damage can be dealt. So he's got access to all 3 roaches. So 6 play points already out of the water, so he can do things with 3 play points, which means he can cast the 3 spells in his hand. And I think he already counted it. He's got it.
You know, I see Sazoni messing with his phone. Do you think that Sazoni may be playing on an alternate account on ladder? Because, like...
No, I think he's playing this on his phone.
Is he really? Are you playing it on your phone, Sazoni? You gotta tell me, man. And he's waiting on it! Like, he's...
The hunt has only
Yep.
begun.
So Sazoni showing everybody how it's done. That's how you win with Roach, baby.
He's looking at me.
That's right. That's right, Sazoni. Show people that Forest isn't dead.
Hey,
Now
what is that?
I can officially get my Nerf Forest shirt, and it will make sense.
Wait. I wish you kind of got a shot of what he was eating, because I wanted to know if it was peanut butter ice cream or not. But he looked right into the... No, he is eating peanut butter ice cream. His name is Peanut Butter. Yo!
Peanut Butter doing it dirty. Okay, so for those of you who don't know Roach really quick, it's one of my favorite cards. It's just a 2-play point 1/1 that gets that has Storm, and it gets +1/+0 for every card previously played. So essentially you're trying to set up a turn where you can play a bunch of spells, play out all your Roaches so they get huge like we just saw, that can just end the game in one turn, and you just kind of try to control the game / stay alive until that happens. Now, what we've seen is it can't really contend with a lot of the decks, but against the matchup that he was heavily not favored in, he did work. He did over 20 damage in a single turn, okay?
It's kind of what Rainey said in a way. Like, he said that maybe, you know, Zolo kind of works in reverse. In the matchups that he's heavily favored in, he just kind of breaks it.
Right.
So, I mean, it kind of played out like that. Sorry, Zolo. But like, it just kind of played out.
Let me tell you, in the next year or so, you're gonna have so much good luck come to you, because I can't imagine anybody going through what you went through this NGE season and not being able to turn that around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a complete house, just like Rainey was saying. So this matchup, quite similar. It's kind of like a Roach deck what Suzzoni's playing, but different in the sense that you don't necessarily always have to OTK in one turn. You can kind of build up boards, do a little bit of damage here, do a little bit of damage there.
Unbelievable.
Oh.
You know that you see this, right? This is not looking good.
Who's as old as dirt?
You're done for.
No. Jerzello has a great hand right now. He's got Felice into Hector, into more card draw with Witch of Sweets. He's got a really good draw. But Suzzoni's got a good draw too. I mean, other than the fact that he's got 2 Conjuring Forces in his hand, he doesn't need both of those. His hand's looking okay.
I would be jamming Suzzoni's face at infinitum right now.
Yeah, 100%. Brace the crap out of Conjuring Force.
Yeah. And what is Suzzoni going to do about this with his hand? Like,
honestly, yeah. He can't even kill the Felice. Well, actually, he can. He can if he uses a Blade Mage. But then Goblin Mage survives, and then the Evo point. And the Hector, yeah.
So it's like, what does he even do, you know?
Let's see. Yeah, there's no way to deal with both effectively enough.
Golly, it's chilly here.
It won't be long
Yeah,
now.
so he's just hoping and praying that there's not another damage.
Ooh, this is real scarf.
Yeah. Neutral Rune not having enough damage. Yeah.
On the warfield.
Yeah.
Plenty of cards
I kind
to
of
do
believe
stuff.
that. No, said it.
Looks like you won.
Yeah.
Back in quick.
So if Forest has a bad matchup versus neutral, Conjuring Force has an even worse matchup depending on its draw. Like, if it doesn't get effective enough early game, it will just crumble to neutral, because as you can see, it just really does. Like, it has 3 damage, it has 2 damage, evoed 1/1s for 3 damage, but it can't really deal with big wide boards. It can't deal with even really big, like Felice, for instance. Completely unable to deal with that in a realistic way. So, yeah. I mean, like, even if he did use 3 cards to deal with it plus an Evo, you know what I mean? It's only killing one of the cards in play. So, Suzzoni has to get a really good draw in order to push through yet another neutral deck that Jerzello is bringing here.
You know what card that Suzzoni's going to need in the early game here? Oh, going first certainly helps, but he's going to need some kaleidoscopic glows.
Yes, absolutely. And what we've been seeing is he likes to keep his magic missiles and things like that. I don't like that, especially against these neutral decks. Yeah. They don't kill anything.
Yeah, exactly. They don't. I don't know what he's doing, but sure. But we see Jerzello, he's going second, but he's got a great curve. And he's going to get some actual, really, according to the current configuration, he's going to get some value out of his Rabbit Ear Attendant, possibly. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Ooh,
100%. Yeah, he's got a great draw. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Suzzoni, not a bad draw, but not. Oh, okay. His hand just got way better.
That's better. That's better.
Way better.
And just so you guys know, the reason that he chose to trade in the manner that he did was because he wants to prevent taking as much damage.
Yes. It's not about value in this early game. It's all about preventing as much damage as possible, because if it can get to a mid game, then he can start to take over.
Yeah. I like this. Well, I don't know. Trade. Oh, he's going to bounce it back. I like that. I like that play.
I like
he's
that.
Just saying,
this gives him a levy for next turn as well. Yep.
Say, all right, I'm going to take damage this turn. That's fine. You know, he's fine
Plus,
with that.
you know, he's playing a sword. Geno's always an option. It could prevent the Evo point. You know what I mean? Or, I mean, prevent just, like, free value being traded off.
But in a way, again, he has opted to just take damage over that. So it's certainly something to consider. But anyway, we're past
Who's
that.
as old as
You're
dirt?
done for.
Down.
It's just like back in the
As
old
much as
days.
the-
A job well
But-
done.
So this will clear as much as he can, except for the Unica.
Finally,
Yeah.
great.
But the problem that we have now is that Council of Card Knights is a thing. Oh my
Into-
goodness, man!
All
What
of
is
the
that
Alwitas
hand?
in the world.
It won't be long
What is
now.
that hand? Like,
Yeah, this is just full out aggression and nastiness.
No, no.
What? hand? Like, there is nothing.
There's not really anything. Like there could be a miracle Daria, you know what I mean? Like the best possible Daria we've ever seen.
Yeah, he's gonna
And
have to
and
win Daria.
probably still isn't good enough.
No, he's got three Alwitas sitting in hand, dude. Like there's
Count
literally
'em.
nothing. Nothing.
Three.
Three. Most people only run
With
two.
a bang and
He's
boom.
fucking three. Like, oh, wow.
That was a pretty good Daria.
Yeah, it was.
I'm not gonna lie, that was about as good as he could have hoped for.
Yeah, I mean he does get the Blade Mage, but
Won't be long now.
three Alwitas though. I think it's good.
I don't like this Evo at all.
Majesty.
At-
Atone with your lifeblood.
But whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's leaving the Bane. I mean, not that he really had a choice in that matter, but this is the easy just jam out weed.
With me, Captain.
Yeah. 100% you just jam out Weedas until your opponent's dead at this point.
Yeah, right.
And you know, there would be literally nothing wrong.
Okay, so now with the, like I said, there is a chance with a perfect Daria. So that Daria was pretty insane. The problem is that the only really follow up of Rhymewind into a Conjuring Force is even taken away because both the Conjuring Forces got mulled in the first Daria, right? Or was that last game?
Chilly here.
That was the last game. He didn't have.
Oh,
any
last
on-
game he had 2 Conjuring Forces, not this game. Okay. So there would still be a possibility of a top deck Conjuring Force going to town here. So there is a possibility for Suzzoni to maybe win this
With
game.
me, Captain.
Yeah. This is a nail biter. Okay. We know
I
the
mean,
power
it's
of Conjuring.
this turn or not, though. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, well, that's a not. Well, maybe not.
He needed to get it off
Okay,
the
it's
top.
definitely
Like, he
not
needed
enough.
all of those spells, yeah.
Yeah. So we're actually gonna see
Blimey.
Sony's Conjuring Force take 2 L's. How do you feel about that right now?
I think, you know what? He deserves it. And the reason I say that, not even to be mean to Suzzoni, because I love the fact that he brought it to the tournament and he piloted it to a 3-0 in the early beginnings of this tournament. Laziness! Laziness, Suzzoni. People know you're playing it. They know how to tech against you. They know what you're doing. You gotta change it up, brother.
Yeah.
But,
Suzzoni-
Drzello, good on him. Showing him that those houses, he can knock them down too.
Yeah. he brought a demolition team in today. You know,
That's
he was
right.
like,
Suzzoni takes the loss, will end up 3-2 after getting 3 straight wins early on in the round robin. And interestingly enough, I think that has implications for what he's going to do moving into the playoffs. That actually might make kind of the messaging unclear for what Suzzoni has to offer, right? How are you going to prepare against them when you have in the back of your mind, well, you lost 2 weeks in a row with your pet decks, right? What is not your pet deck anymore, right? What are you preparing for the tournament? So I think in some ways it might make the situation even more ambiguous. But Drzello, very good on him, taking the win. And it's been a good day. It's been a good week for Drzello in terms of round robin. He's really bolstering his score line. And we'll have to review the standings to see exactly how everything plays out at the end of the day. But we have one more match remaining. Fatina versus Symphonus. And this is going to be a really interesting match because we're going back to old school Forest playing Wolf Bolt. And this is the traditional list: Roach, White Wolf, Silver Bolt, everything included. And then we have Dreadshift Rune as his alternate deck. So very combo oriented, kind of Fatina going back to his roots, maybe identifying something about, hey, this is my opportunity to play combo. Let's take it. And Symphonus, on the flip side, is running Conjuring Force Rune and then Haven Aegis. So let's talk a little bit about these deck lineups. A bunch of combo in this head-to-head match. Who do you think is going to take it, Exo, Fatina or Symphonus, and why?
Well, I don't really know how good Symphonus is going to pilot Conjuring Force, and as we see it kind of bricking today, it's kind of like on the low train, you know what I mean? Even the previous week of play, we saw it lose, that kind of thing, so maybe it's kind of losing its luster. However, it is all combo, so, I mean, how do you even prepare for those matchups? It's realistically who can play out their cards, who can draw the right combo pieces fast enough. I will say that the D-Shift Queen of the Dreadsea combo is probably the slowest of them all, and Wolf Bolt's like just below that in how slow it is. So I'd say Conjuring Force has the edge in how fast it can go off, but other than that, it's realistically just going to be how good these players are with their combo decks.
Do you have a favorite heading into this match, Aya?
In the combo off, I'm gonna have to go with Fatina. Like, this is just his bread and butter, man. Like, he knows combo decks, and his lineup is actually quite good against, you know,
12
he's facing. So.
12:54 on Saturday, September 9th, PST. Aya Senpai has shown his support for a forest deck and has chosen it as his favorite.
Yes!
Don't get
Yes!
it twisted.
Clip it!
Don't
Clip it!
Don't-
Chat!
It just won.
Share
I
the
have
Shadowverse
flipped
game!
scripts.
We've caught him
Okay.
red-handed.
Don't get it confused.
Wait, Aya, how did Forrest do last match? How is Forrest gonna do this match? You think it's gonna win? Is that right? Oh, interesting.
Interesting. Interesting, Aya. Shadowverse game. Clip it, share it, send it over to that account. We all know that Aya is a Forest Craft supporter now. Thank you
Yep.
for joining
I
our
am
ranks.
so
Forrest
not
Craft's
a
biggest
Forrest
fan,
Craft.
this guy.
Yep, we've got him. Finally. I'm glad that you've come to the green side of the world.
I'm gonna buy Aya a Nerf Forest shirt when I get myself one, and I'm gonna make
You know
him
what?
wear it.
I'll even wear it. I'll even wear it. Like, go ahead.
What is the image that you're gonna put on that Nerf Forest shirt?
Nothing. It's just gonna be real straightforward. Just Nerf Forest. No images. No nothing crazy. Just
Nothing on
straight
it? See, I would put a very smug-looking Arasa on the shirt. That's what I would do. Like
Or
an
maybe Arasa's-
incredibly smug, like real, like a face that you just want to, so annoying, you know, that you just want to slap. I would put
Okay.
that kind of expression of Arasa on the shirt, and it says Nerf Forest, and Arasa.
Well, we could just put our faces on the shirt, and everybody will want to punch it, right? That's how we do.
Yeah. Yep. Please don't bully Forest. Please no. Don't do it. Don't do it. So we're waiting for this match to get kickstarted. Fatina versus Symphonus, the last match of the round robin, and it's been a long 4 weeks. Here we've had quite a journey here. These players started out. A lot of the European players started out in, I would say, somewhat obscurity in terms of the competitive scene for Shadowverse, and especially because it's such a new scene. There are not a lot of names established, but we've come to really kind of grow alongside these players and see them kind of come into their own, shoot off finger guns, dab their heart out, their hearts out. We've gotten to this point. We found the 3 from Group A. What are the 3 from Group B? And these are, remember, your European representatives. Last week we kind of had a fun show match, not serious at all, between North America and Europe, but these guys ultimately will be some of the most likely to be chosen to move on to the Grand Prix just because of the way Season 3 is designed, and that continuing story. Something interesting to note in terms of league structure and format is actually with how the NGE Shadowverse Open is structured, there's more players that are being relegated than kind of the majority of round robin formats that you would see. So actually there's not a lot of security for these players just in general. It's better than last season, where last season there was only 2 players that got to carry on. This season, half of them will be able to move on, but typically you only see kind of the bottom 2 players or teams drop out in kind of a league format. So this is kind of a sharp cut, really. And you know, in Group A, the 3 players that did end up getting cut, I believe that would be Lanathel, Akai, and Praetorian. You know, they still have a chance to come back and play in Season 3, but they have to go through the open qualification process. And so that's kind of rough. You know, it's not easy to kind of make it through that far. But we'll see. These players have kind of built up their storylines and their personalities and have shown some flavor a little bit here and there, and we hope to see them continue on into Season 3 and into the World Grand Prix. And if not, we hope to see the new blood that will rise to challenge them. So, Symphonus versus Fatina. It's going to be Haven versus Forest. Just the best craft in the game.
Stop it.
Baby. So, Aya, tell us why you think Forest is so good, and especially in this matchup.
First and foremost,
Okay, I'll talk about it. I'm not going to force you to talk about it, okay? Alright, so...
Ask me a question, then cut me from asking to answer.
I'm not going to make you answer that. Oh, wait, okay, if you want to answer that question, please be my guest. Why is Forest so amazing?
Okay. Again, I don't think the Forest is amazing, but it's amazing in this matchup. Because Ike's Haven is a very, very slow control deck, okay? And it's a deck that requires you to get to a very late stage of the game. Where that's actually where Forest shines, is in the late stages of the game. The more turns that pass, the longer they have to set up combo. And then when they have their combo set up, it really is always just a matter of when can they kill me, you know?
And especially with this variation because,
okay, so Fatina is running an even more combo-oriented version of Forest than usual. He's running White Wolf, and hopefully you can White Wolf on the screen.
My power is uncontrollable.
Because we haven't seen White Wolf at all in this tournament. But he's running White Wolf and Silverbolt because that's the combo.
So kind of like how Bandersnatch pulls out Spawn of the Abyss, White Wolf will pull out Silverbolt, and Silverbolt deals damage to any target based on the number of cards you have in your hand after drawing you a card. So doubling up on those can deal up to 18 damage in total, and you don't have to fully rely on Roach combo to win. So very awesome late game potential.
Also remember that card that the White Wolf is going to pull, that's 0. It just costs nothing.
Yep.
So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's what allows you to play both the Silverbolts on the same turn. You have one in your hand, you go fetch one with White Wolf, and then you deal up to 18 with it, and then you can really just finish the game however you want to. Or you could have just dealt 2 damage before then and just finish the game on the spot. And Aegis doesn't really have a way to pressure that much to kill Forest before they can get to those turns.
Well, I mean, we're kind of seeing a little bit of pressure right now. We see that he's going to be using this Hound in the Snow White. He'll probably go face, and he can just kind of pressure like that. Plus, he does have still he does have a sword here, which probably
I don't necessarily like that to pop the Snow White there, because What of the Brambles wouldn't have gotten value had he just waited.
Well, actually, it's not bad because he actually just saved one. It essentially saved 1 damage from Will of the Forest.
That's true. Unfortunately, Will of the Forest, that card was not. That is Elf Twins Assault, the card that you saw. You've been seeing many weeks, but you've definitely seen it today. The very huge effect. It does so much damage for its cost. And he got the right pulls there.
Now, I kind of want to go into a little something here. About Forest in general. And I kind of want to make this clear, not that I personally have a problem with Forest, it's just that Forest is a deck that is usually played to counter certain lineups. It's not like a play whatever, all the time.
You just play it, it's always strong, that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Right. It's not like that. It's there specifically to counter certain lineups. And in any event where you know that you're going to be playing against slower decks and this and other, Forest tends to excel in those. So it is certainly possible that Forest could do incredibly well in the later stages moving forward if they're just going to be sniping out certain slower lineups. So
right. It used to be one of the best, if not the best decks in the game, though, before all of these hyper-aggressive, huge board-filling cards existed. So it went from being one of the best to just a role player, like you said. In certain matchups, it excels.
But we do see something, pretty important here right now. And what that is we see that Symphonus is sitting on like a lot of damage.
This is a snow, shimmer, and lights.
Like, he's been doing a lot of damage, rather.
Yep.
But he's been
actually being aggro, and this Dark John could come down at any moment just to finish the game off if Fatina lets up on the board clears.
Yeah.
We also saw Fatina not evolve the Fina last turn to get another 0 cost in hand when he's got almost the entire combo in front of him.
Right.
Which was interesting to me. Definitely interesting.
I do wonder why he wouldn't have done so. Maybe he just decided that, hey, I want to save the Evo point for the Roach damage, which is certainly a possibility. Not that I think he necessarily needs it when he's running like the Silverbolt package.
Yeah, he's got the Silverbolt to finish off extra damage if he needs to.
Right. So I don't know if that's necessarily like, I guess I would say the right line. He's opting to play a Silverbolt now. Okay.
Sparkly stuff. Gimme.
Yeah, this is more than fine. This will still set up lethal next turn. However, he kind of just gave away his plan to Symphonus. So as long as Symphonus keeps playing wards, he'll be okay. But how many wards he has? Okay.
Oh boy.
Well,
I would jam like. I would maybe not both of them, but like actually, yeah, I would jam both of them. Why not?
yeah, I would attack, play Dark John to clear out the board, and then play the Grimnir to protect.
And then, when he can't deal with this one, jam another one. But, well, wait, let's see. Can he still assemble lethal through the Grimnir ward? Because he did just play a 0 cost, so he does not have that anymore.
So he has no straightforward way to deal with the Grimnir, so he'd have to run a Roach into it, meaning he'd have to win with his final 2 Roaches, which he can play 3 of. But he'd have to play one of the Roaches first. So that's 9 total play points. And so he could only play 2 spells first before that. And he has access to Fairy Circle plus Fairy, so he could do that. So 2 played, 3 damage first Roach to kill the... Actually, am I counting that right? 9. No, he couldn't play that many spells. I'm sorry. He has 9 play points to do that entire thing in the first place, so he can only play 1 spell. So 1 spell into Roach wouldn't be enough to clear it out on the first Roach. He'd have to play the second Roach to kill it, which means he probably wouldn't have enough damage to finish out. However... his opponent's at 12, that's not very high. And especially not through 2 Grimnirs. There's too much math to deal right now. I'll let Fatina deal with it.
Well, it's his job to figure it out, right?
That's right. And actually, now that I think about it, maybe through 1 Grimnir he could have, but through both, there's no way. Not without a Sylvan Justice or an Elf Twins Assault to break through. Well, maybe there is.
Well, with 6 play points? I don't think so.
Ow.
Oh, right!
Maybe he's got this. The Wood of Brambles is nice here.
I completely forgot about the Wood of Brambles, dude.
Ow.
But is this going to be enough?
And he's not going to be able to kill this turn. There's no...
Yeah. But it was definitely a well-played turn. Got to put the Roaches back in his hand. Very good.
Yeah, so he still
now,
could perform lethal next turn for sure.
Yeah, next turn lethal is assured. And there are no more wards. Symphonus decided, you know what? I didn't want to play my Aegis because I was afraid, and now I have no more wards left, and now I have no time left. He knows he's dead.
Yeah. I mean, the worst part about it is that he couldn't have played the Aegis anyway because he would have been dead. So,
I know. This is why the matchup, as we've been talking about, is so heavily favored for Roach, because this late game whole thing, like, Roach will put you into a situation where you just can't really do anything. You have to put the wards up like you saw Symphonus do, which takes you away from the aggro plan that you were trying to win with. Once the wards are dealt with, you have no way to burst, and you already know that the combo's sitting in your opponent's hand, so it puts you between a rock and a hard place.
Right.
And I think this might actually be the downfall for Symphonus in this matchup, is the fact that out of 4 decks and 3 combo decks, he's the one that decided to bring Aegis, which is very poorly favored against all combo decks.
Yep.
Not
this
just
is
4.
basically... This is where, like, if Fatina was still on camera, he would be dancing.
Right. And I assume he's going to take his time, do full amounts of Roach damage, because when you're playing Roach, you always do that.
Yep. Yeah, this is definitely a wrap.
Yep.
So he's gonna
Nature's
get that
Guidance,
7,
Approach.
and that's it.
No!
I like how he did it like that just so he can let him know that he lost.
I am
Perfect. Very well played by Fatina. And now we're really going to see, like, Haven has to go up against another... It has to win against yet another combo deck. So this might be it. This might be the thing that costs Symphonist the match. I hope not. I hope that this Aegis deck can pull up some kind of a victory versus the combo decks, but we'll see.
It's going to be incredibly difficult. Dreadshift is... In that of itself, it's like a value control deck. I mean, you're running cards like Professor of Taboos in it. You're running... I have to look at his specific list. But
yeah, I'll kind of go over to the viewers and kind of explain the deck to people. So it's kind of like what you saw Burn Rune doing. It has Earth Sigils, it uses Earthright, and it has a lot of those powerful effects. It also borrows from Dragon a little bit in the fact that it plays a Saha Quill package with Lucifer and Israfil and things like that. And its main thing to do is it will eventually find Dimension Shift by tutoring for it by either Freshman Lu or some other source, maybe Enchanted Library will draw it. And then you use Queen of the Dreadsea to pop your D-Shift and something like an Israfil or Lucifer to take an extra turn with it, so you just push and push at the end of the game with it. So it's a control deck just like Aegis Haven, but it has a combo win as opposed to just a straightforward win.
Now, the thing that I've noticed about Fatina's specific list of Dreadshift is that he's only running one D-Shift in his list, which is rather common.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, it's rather common. He does have Freshman Lu and Enchanted Libraries in his deck to be able to fetch him. So, it fetches the shift. And so he doesn't get clogged up. He does, yeah, he'll have access to that.
He is running 3 queens, though. 3.
Yeah, that's standard. That's standard for the list.
Gimme!
I know, it sounds weird. But it's actually
It does
quite
sound
standard.
weird, but you need it. You need it to combo, so...
Yeah. Yep. But... Conjuring Force is certainly capable of winning this particular matchup.
100% is capable.
After this matchup, he's gonna have to go back to Aegis Haven.
Yeah, that Aegis Haven's gonna have to be the control deck. That's gonna be it. Like, and he's actually not looking too hot against this early aggressive quote-unquote board from this control combo deck from Fatina over here right now. Obviously, Fatina's not gonna be able to finish out the aggro curve because that's not what the deck does, but very interesting to have this kind of a start with a control deck.
Well, the thing is, it's actually quite good. Reason why is because it will allow Fatina to be able to potentially kill earlier than having to get the whole combo set up. Or even just making the combo easier when he gets to that. But at this point, I kind of love the aggressive lines of play. Just go,
super aggressive line.
Yeah, I love this very much because now Symphonist has to be like, all right, well, I have to deal with this. You know, he's actually being more aggressive than I am, and I'm the aggro deck. You know,
right? So
he has to deal with it.
And yeah, I mean, if he wants to actually clear out the board, he's gonna have to commit another spell to this, an Angelic Snipe. I don't think he will. Oh, never mind. Got scared. I wouldn't have been scared of the Freshman Lu, to be honest. Right now, he's got the Conjuring Force, although he doesn't have anything to use with the Conjuring Force yet. He doesn't have a Blade Mage, he doesn't have a Rime Wind, he doesn't have a Summon Snow, so he's just trying to get there.
Well, right now, as the game stands, like Symphonist could just jam he could jam a Conjuring Force next turn past nothing, and then he can kind of just start doing stuff after that. He's actually doing the Magic Missile. I find that a little weird, though. I don't know why he wouldn't just play the Conjuring.
Yeah, I'm not sure, actually.
He's got to get it.
This is kind of what I mean, though, about the Conjuring Force before we even talked about it. I don't really know how practiced Symphonist is with it, and it kind of looks like he's just giving away a lot of what you would want to play after you play the Conjuring Force.
Right.
And he's not giving himself an opportunity to actually play it.
What's even worse is that Fatina in hand has multiple options to be able to deal with any board that Symphonist puts up.
So now he goes with the line, but it's a turn too late.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's not necessarily bad because he can roll it into a Daria. It's just not going to do as much as it could have.
prosper.
Yeah, I love this line of play, by the way. Him playing the Lucifer and letting it sit there, forcing him to deal with it, is great because he has the OTK lethal in hand for turn 10. He has the Queen of the Dread Sea, and he has the Israfil with the D-shift, so he does have it. But unfortunately, this isn't going to do anything. This is getting Calamitous Curse 100%.
Yeah, so Symphonus, what he's got to do to win this game, guys, is he's got a Daria. Again, he's got to hope Daria into Blade Mages and other spells to cast afterwards so that he can get in a bunch of damage. And he has to do it right now. There is no more time.
What's his Daria at?
The first Daria on the right, I think, is pretty low. It's got to be pretty low. I can barely see it. Hold on. It is at, I believe, 5? Yeah, 5. Okay. So he's going to play it now.
So he has to get something amazing off of this. That's not it.
That's not it. He needed at least one Blade Mage, probably 2, in order to just take it home.
Yeah, and now
but as it stands, he's just not going to be able to get the damage in.
Yeah, Fatina has the OTK. He can OTK with really whatever. Doesn't matter. He can play Queen of the Dread Sea, never play anything else, play the D-shift and win. You know?
Right. Right.
But do it with style, Fatina. You gotta give me the Lucifer kill, bro.
Yeah, so honestly, Symphonus, he had a chance earlier in the game, but I think what he should have done is played the Conjuring Force and then immediately Daria'd because he knew he was on a clock. After the early aggression from Fatina, you don't have time to wait anymore. Like, you have to go for your combos, and without any Blade Mages, you can't really win. You can't expect to keep a board against a deck that has a bunch of board clears, so Blade Mages are only out to victory. He just didn't consider that, and then now he's paying the price.
Yep. And he's got to watch this movie now.
Yep, the D-Shift movie. Coming to theaters to you soon. Awesome play, Fatina. Very good play.
Yeah, definitely awesome.
There it is. Fatina takes the win 2-0. And it's really, really interesting. He was very, very devastated after his last loss. And it put him in a really tough spot. And came back to play this last match and actually won it 2-0. And if we could, when it's ready, take a look at the standings and just look at exactly how close this situation played out, there are some... Group B ended up being incredibly interesting, and especially for Fatina. And to have him win this particular match 2-0 changes that story in a very, very significant way. But made a really, really fantastic Roach play in Game 1. And I think he just kind of really comboed out Symphonus in Game 2. We talked about the paces of these two decks. Dreadshift versus Conjuring Force, where Conjuring Force seems to be favored in that sense. Do you think that Symphonus needed a little more experience to be able to execute that deck particularly well in this situation?
Yes.
So yes and no. So his draw wasn't particularly good. Like, he didn't have early summon Snow into like Rhymewind to like bait out the Calamitous Curses and just keep flooding the board over and over again. So he didn't have that option to him. Yes, in the sense that once that option was available and he saw his opponent with the edge going into turns 10, you have to put a window on yourself. I have 4 turns to win. How can I do that in the best possible way? And he just kind of sat there. You know what I mean? He didn't push for the fastest possible win. So I think in that sense, yes, a little bit more experience was necessary.
Yeah, he didn't really do any damage. That was the thing. Like, with him not playing the Conjuring Force on that one turn that we were talking about, he actually kind of took away his ability to do burst damage. I want to say he got a Blade Mage or something like that. He kind of took that away from himself. So I think I kind of more so in the like just flat out yes that he just didn't have enough experience playing the deck. I don't think.
Well, let's take a look at the standings. It's all prepped and ready to go. See what the result of Group B is. There we have it, a 4-way tie at 3-2.
Wow, is right.
And what was interesting is after Fatina took the loss, he was 2-2. He actually thought that there would not be an opportunity for him to make it into the playoffs. But if he had lost that, so let's talk about this. If Fatina had just lost that match against Symphonus, now Symphonus was out. There's not really a way for Symphonus to make it in at this point, right? But it's still important against this match in Syphilis because if he loses, Fatina would have been in 4th place in the round robin. And the top 3 players would have been Sizoni, Essia, and Catch. But that's not what happened. Now Fatina won. We are in a 4-way tie. Sizoni, Fatina, Essia, and Catch. And what's crazier is the head-to-head does not resolve that situation. So they have beat each other in a cycle. And so we weren't able to decide who would break the tie with that method. So going and looking at the win percentage, the first place winner of Group B is going to be Sizoni with the highest win percentage. And then what we do is we go through and look at the remaining 3 players and find the win percentage amongst them, or rather the head-to-head amongst them. Still not solved, but then we find the win percentage here. Fatina actually is 2nd place in the group.
Nice.
So he has actually made it through to the playoffs in 2nd place by win percentage, and then between the last 2 players, Essia comes out as the 3rd player to make it into the playoffs by way of head-to-head, barely eking it out. And so the 3 players for Group B is going to be Sizoni, Fatina, then Essia in that order. 1, 2, 3. Those are our 3 players and the 4-way tie. I'm a little bit glad that we didn't have to go through a 4-person mini round robin again because that would take forever. But we were very, very, very close to that scenario. So would love to kind of congratulate as well as recap all the players moving on into this bracket stage, and it's going to be very important to kind of take note of these player names because they are not only going to have a big competition coming up here in the next 2 weeks, but also coming in Season 3, they have a lot ahead of them to look forward to, and they're going to need to keep practicing, and especially against 6 new players that will have been looking forward to Season 3, will have been studying Season 2, and we'll be looking forward to the World Grand Prix. And Star Forged Legends, the new expansion for Shadowverse, is a new ground of competition. So there's going to be a lot of things changing, and these guys are going to need to stay on top of it. So again, let's talk about Group A. The 3 players from Group A to have made it through. Of course, Akamaru Red is going to be the top spot in that group, and that's going to be followed by Sheepy is going to join him there, and then Kionis is in 3rd place, and that's from Group A. And we just talked about Group B, and that's going to be Sizoni, Fatina, and Essia to make it through to the playoffs here.
Mouthful.
What a round robin. I can't, that ending there for Group B was literally just like the instant Sizoni lost, everything went to hell. Because then the ties started happening, and Fatina won, and so if Fatina had lost, it would have been a 3-way tie, so it would have been just as crazy with those 3 players, but that would have been resolved in a situation where Sizoni would have been 1st, Essia would have been 2nd, and Catch would have been 3rd, but it got even crazier with a 4-way tie, and I can't believe it. Fatina with arguably, it's interesting, but Sizoni had the best start, and I think Fatina had the worst start, and they kind of met, and now they're kind of neck and neck in 1st and 2nd here. So they're going to have pretty good seeding going into the double elimination bracket in the next week. But what did you guys think of the day today, and what do you think of the players that have made it through so far? Sepa, let's start with you.
Today was literally this. Okay? Like, it was so many off-the-wall stuff. I want to say that DeZello did incredibly well today. You know, like, it's unfortunate that it happened here, like right now, but he did incredibly well today, and I hope that, like, going forward down the road, he can actually look back at these matches and be like, okay, this is what I did differently this week than what I did in previous weeks, and when Season 3 comes up, he's gonna be ready to go. You know, Sizoni kind of fell off a little bit, but Akamaru Red, living up to his word, undefeated, didn't lose a game.
And he styled his way to the end, too. Exodium, how do you feel?
It was a great day. We got to see off-the-wall cards, off-the-wall decks, you know, players playing their best, honestly. And I feel like the people who made it into the top 6 were most of the people that I was expecting. So just based on their performance, their play, their deck choice, like how they're metagaming against their opponents, that kind of stuff, The one message I would have to everyone, and this just isn't going to Zoni, this is going to all the players, practice. Make sure that you know your opponents, build your decks appropriately. Stop playing the same thing every week because it will get you killed in this tournament, okay? So, not literally, okay? That's too far. All right, but like in the card games.
I don't want to die. I need to practice. We're talking about practice, Exodia.
Yes, practice.
We're talking about
absolutely.
practice. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching the Shadowverse Open. A few things here, a few notes for you guys. Shadowverse.nge.io will give you information on broadcast schedule, as well as give you access to some player interviews and some insights on how they were approaching the competition, as well as some deck guides if you want to read up on how to play some of these decks you see featured in the tournament here. Also, at Shadowverse Game, two things about it. First, go there to see any kind of announcements, any kind of coverage of packs, as well as that annoying Ultimate Carrot. Also, make sure you send in your tweets and clips of ISMPI supporting Forestcraft. Make sure to do that. And kind of as a final wrap-up thought for the round-robin portion, again, a heavy heart and kind of a big thanks to all the players who came to the round robin through the qualifiers, fought through, but unfortunately did not make it through to the playoff stages. Thanks so much, guys, for competing. There's always next season. You guys have already proven yourselves to be amongst the top players. There's nothing saying that when Starforge Legends comes around, you won't be up there at the top again. So we really hope and encourage you to try again next season. And of course, the message out to the top winners that have made it through the playoff stages. There's still more road ahead of you. The journey's not done yet, but congratulations on making it to the next stage of the tournament. We will be flying off to the next endeavor next week to see who will be the first place winner of Season 2, taking Wonderland Dreams by storm and winning the expansion. And of course, tomorrow, same time, same channel, the North American broadcast kicks off, and it's going to be the final week of that round robin, just as exciting, and going to be hopefully just as roller coastery and surprising. But I'm Rainy. That's ISMPI, and that's Exodium there. It's been a pleasure to cast for you guys. Oh my God, get the kick. Cut it. Cut it. We're done. Oh, God.